Greetings friends, welcome to another video no one is going to watch here at NoOneWatchesArDee. I am your host RD, and this is more unwatchable content. And what is in store for us today in today's unwatchable content, I'm almost certain no one is asking, but if you are one of the no ones looking to be informed and not one of the no ones that merely uses my platform and the accompanying live chat to talk amongst themselves primarily about themselves in almost anything other than the content I am trying to inform a very small few number of no ones about, we are once again going to be looking at our fine friends at FEMA and look a little bit more into the Keystone 6 mass casualty national level exercise scenarios, which include a series of high impacts cascading through a region of the United States of America. And has the Masscare strategy already been activated, and has a drill gone live before the drill has even started? And FEMA activity in recent weeks and months has been echoing extremely loudly of echoes of the past in leading up to those events that unfolded on September the 11th, 2001 in New York City, Lower Manhattan. Buildings turned to dust the day before FEMA were about to conduct a mass casualty biohazard terrorism drill at the exact site an alleged terrorist attack took place on United States soil the day before, in many military exercises as well as military and governmental agencies were all conducting a series and host of drills and exercises leading up to September the 11th and including the day of September the 11th, 2001, almost 23 years ago. And is history repeating, or at the very, very least rhyming, as we lead up to that national level exercise, Keystone 6, which is going to be simulating a series of high impact events occurring and cascading through the United States, a region of the United States. Shippensburg, Pennsylvania is the host city for that national level exercise, but some of you may already be all too aware that we already have had, since I first announced the Keystone 6 national level exercise, have had a series of high impact weather events cascading through the United States. So stay tuned, folks. As always here at No One Watches RD, there is quite a bit to get through, including probably and the likelihood of government documents and PDFs, the visitations to our fine friends at FEMA, as well as a few relative mainstream articles relating the subject of Keystone 6 and the series of weather events that are unfolding as we speak throughout the United States of America. So stay tuned, folks. Buckle up. We're about to dive in to our first content of the day. No one watches RD. No one watches. No one watches RD. No one watches. So let us start out at the National Masscare Strategy website, which is a government website. So there we go, guys. We have crossed that customary visitation to a government website off the list with the first article of the day. Now, this is about Keystone 6, the National Masscare exercise about to take place in a matter of days' time. And don't forget, guys, there is a pre-event exercise for participants and volunteers for that exercise taking place on I believe the 18th and 19th, just a couple of days before the main thing goes active. But is it already active, guys? Because in some of these places that have been recently within the last 24 hours affected by some of these extreme weather events. Some of them are already calling for Masscare and assistance and relief efforts for some of the damage caused by those overnight storms, hurricanes, hail the size of golf balls. But this is actually a different article from the one we have seen recently in the FEMA files, although it does sort of start out a little bit the same. This one has been updated to remove the events that took place in April and March. But the National Masscare Strategy, Resource Center, there are some hyperlinks for you at the top there. The National Masscare Exercise 2024 that takes place in this month, May 2024 on the Gregorian, and the 2024 National Masscare Exercise is called Keystone 6. And it will be held, as I've informed you, in Shippensburg, Pennsylvania on May the 21st, 23rd through of 2024. And this is where it gets interesting, folks, because the scenario will involve large-scale impacts cascading across the region and the need for mass care services for up to 100,000 people. Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, will be standing up a Commonwealth-managed shelter, and it will be activating operational planning mass care task forces for feeding, sheltering, disability, integration, reunification, household pets, distribution of emergency supplies, and housing. Sign up to receive updates and registration information here. Not here at this at this channel. You'd have to go to the website below, and you can also read more about it at the website below, and read more about Masscare in Pennsylvania at www.dhs.pa.gov/Masscare, not massacre as you might be inclined to speak about. And that isn't the Department of Homeland Services, as you may be thinking, although some of you ones who are paying attention to No One Watches RD will know that that is the Department of Human Services Pennsylvania, which we have looked at in those FEMA files, which have been put on hold for the moment because sort of the Keystone 6 stuff does seem to be taking priority alongside with the mass care strategy, and it does seem to be active. Drills may well have already gone live in some scenarios because these exercises are being carried out across the nation for a whole variety of things, including weather impacts, as we are now seeing in sort of actual time, real time, if or not it's real life role playing, weather warfare, or it is the result of climate change, who can knows. But there are 3 pictures in this article that you can possibly see there scrolling automatically across your screen. Now this is a longish article. It goes on to say a little bit more about sort of the Masscare when it was first come into introduction in 2012, and it tells us that sort of through 2020 to 2022 there were no national level exercises conducted in the United States due to the pandemic, but they have started out this year, and it does seem to be a very, very big event. I'm not entirely sure if there was one last year. They haven't actually listed or mentioned it in the bottom, which is why I'm getting to the bottom. So you guys, if you so choose to, you can read for yourself. And here is what I'm talking about. So 2020, 2021, and 2022, the National Masscare exercises were cancelled. And then the only mention of any other national mass care exercises date back to 2019. So there's nothing about a 2023 mass care exercise, whatever that was. I will have to look a little bit more into, possibly, hopefully, before the end of this one. But why I'm getting down to the bottom, so this is another one, look, that I wanted to sort of point out, especially because this is taking place on the New Madrid fault line, which is where we've already had a few earthquakes a month ago. leading into the eclipse. Sorry to mention the total eclipse of the sun again, but there was something about that event that I do truly believe was used as an excuse to put into place procedures and measures to counteract what may be to come. I'm not saying something is to come, but as we are talking about and discovering, the past is echoing loudly in present time with all of this FEMA activity, military exercises, governmental agency exercises, and including exercises for weather events that we are now experiencing, weather events. But back in August of 2019, between the 26th and the 29th, at Illinois State Emergency Operations Center in Springfield, Illinois, the Simpsons, the exercise used a task force concept and examined Masscare related recovery issues following a significant earthquake in the New Madrid seismic zone, which would be a high impact event, a high impact scenario, which is what Keystone 6 is, a series of high impacts cascading through the region, although there is mention that there is going to be a simulation of a gas leak. Could we be seeing disasters within disasters unfolding? But specifically, the exercise focused on planning in the areas of sheltering, feeding, and reunification in 4 main time frames. The first time frame between 2 and 15 days, the second 15 to 30 days, the third being 30 to 60 days, and the fourth of those would be sheltering, housing, and feeding survivors, victims for 60 to 90 days. Stay tuned, guys, because we've got some interesting stuff regarding that. In contemporary times, FEMA have put out a call to action and are asking for vendors to step up and provide them with turnkey shelter facilities that can provide sheltering and feeding for up to 50,000 disaster victims. In 2018, it was in Arizona. But as I said, guys, I'm not going to read all of this. It will take a lot of time. I just want to scroll to the bottom. If you so choose so, you can stop and start this at your leisure and read what is on the screen, which is why I am purposely scrolling all the way down to the bottom of this. And we are going to look, as I said, at some articles that we may have seen previously in some of those FEMA file streams here at NoOneWatchesArDee. But as I said, this Masscare event is about to take place in just a few weeks' time, a few days' time. At the end of this month, I think that we can put the remainder of the FEMA files on hold and pay a little bit more attention to exactly what is going on with this Masscare event exercise that is about to take place. And let's dig a little bit more into the Keystone 6 and just what exactly Keystone are. So there we go, guys. We are nearly at the bottom. My apologies, it was a long article. As I said, sometimes I do like to read them in their entirety, sometimes for the sake of swiftness. We do like to sort of just touch upon some of the more important stuff in the articles, and then, as I said, I like to allow you to read it at your own leisure if you choose so. If or not you are one of those individuals that does that, let me know, or if not, and I am merely wasting my time scrolling to the bottom because nobody actually stops and starts and reads any of this, I can alleviate that from future editing endeavors, and that hopefully will provide a little bit of more enjoyment for your viewing pleasures. Apologies, guys, it is a long article, but a little bit of obsessive compulsion is navigating me towards the bottom of this rather than just saying, you know what, guys, look it up for yourself. What does this say at the bottom here? FEMA National Advisory Council lists subcommittees for 2024 planning for animal wellness working group. Now, this is another very interesting thing. Also, that alongside this Masscare strategy exercise, there's a lot of activities going on regarding pets and the reunification of household pets. Sheltering sensory items. FEMA releases new exercise starter kits, including reunification support. So a lot of mentions of reunification and reuniting families. FEMA reforms disaster assistance to help survivors. That was back in February of this month. We've actually looked into that, and they've actually made the process an awful lot easier, so it won't be as time consuming, which could suggest to me that they are expecting long lines at the gate. And again, this isn't exactly to assist disaster victims, but to assist FEMA staff with not overloading them with paperwork. But as you said, guys, we did get to the bottom of this. So where we are heading next remains to be seen for me, but you'll find out when we get there. So we are once again at the nationalcarestrategy.org, again another government website. In fact, it's the same government website where we are going to be revisiting an article. In fact, the article that sort of started this all out off regarding the Keystone 6 and the National Masscare Strategy national level exercise. And funny enough, when I wasn't recording, those pictures were moving. Let me see if I can refresh it and see if they will move. And that was what I wanted to sort of point out. Yeah, there you go. Look, so this is the National Masscare Strategy webpage, and look at those clouds. It would seem to be weather systems, folks. Wouldn't you agree with me? It's hard to sort of deny that that doesn't look as though it is weather systems there. And also, interestingly enough, they sort of put National Care Service and then somehow have blocked out some of the wording there, and you sort of have the services, sort of SS there. But this was the article that I wanted to point out, because it said, this was an article in March, and it says the use of mass care task forces, and this document provides the best practices and relevant guidance, procedures, checklists, and job aids for the use of task forces in mass care. And the audience for this document includes federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial emergency management agencies, non-governmental organizations, and private sector entities involved in the coordination of mass care services during a disaster. Now, this isn't regarding the exercise, guys. This is asking for people to check. They're providing guide lists and checklists and procedures for all of these emergency management agencies, NGOs, private sectors, to get involved with the coordination of mass care services, like they're preparing all of these other entities and agencies in the eventuality that possibly an event that is going to require mass care is on the way. This is nothing to do with getting involved with the exercise. This is getting involved with the coordination of mass care services if it should be required during an actual disaster. So we might come back to that to get more information, but not immediately. But FEMA reforms a disaster. Now, this is, again, something very interesting that you need to pay attention to. And again, we have featured this article and mentioned this at least 2, possibly 3 times before during FEMA files. But FEMA, it starts out, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, our fine friends over there, have reformed a disaster assistance to help survivors, and FEMA have published an interim final rule amending its regulations governing the individual assistance program to increase equity by simplifying the processes, and sort of increasing equity is sort of a business term when you're sort of acquiring assets, perhaps. Let that sink in, make of it what you will. But they are simplifying the processes, removing barriers to entry, as well as increasing eligibility for certain types of assistance. And under the program, this rule applies to emergencies and major disasters declared on or after March the 22nd, 2024. I'm pretty sure I don't need to point out we have surpassed that date and now are in a period of time where FEMA is extending the rules of this interim amendment to their procedures for assistance if you are a disaster victim as a result of a natural disaster. They are going to provide this and extend this to all disasters disasters and emergencies that are declared on or after March 22nd. And below, directly below, there it says about the National Masscare exercise taking place in a few weeks called Keystone 6, which is exactly the same wording as the one we have just read. But this is where I want to just stop on this article. I'm not going to scroll to the bottom on this one because we have featured this article before. But they are saying the scenario will involve large-scale impacts cascading across the region, and the need for mass care services for up to 100,000 people. And Pennsylvania will be standing up a Commonwealth-managed shelter and activating operational planning mass care task force for feeding, sheltering, disability integration, reunification, household pets, and the distribution of emergency supplies during the aftermath of a natural disaster. So we are now going to look at that request from FEMA for vendors to provide turnkey sheltering systems, and then we are going to also relook at some photographs sent by an anonymous YouTube viewer that watches this channel that noticed a Amazon factory that was becoming a little bit FEMA campy in Pennsylvania. That could well be one of those vendors stepping up to provide a turnkey shelter. Stay tuned, folks. Lots of informative information coming your way here at NoOneWatchesArDee. We now find ourselves at govtribe.com. If or not that is a government website or not, I do not know, although I don't think it is, because it is a .com and not a .org, which most government websites do tend to be, but I'm guessing that does stand for government tribe or governmental tribe, something government related. But as I said, excuse me for clearing my throat there, this is an article we have read before, so we are going to sort of skip through it a little bit, but we are going to pay attention to some very important key factors included in this article that you do need to pay attention to regarding what I've just spoken about in the previous couple of articles about Keystone 6 and the mass care strategy national level exercise. The state of Pennsylvania, or rather the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, is standing up a Commonwealth-run shelter that is looking to simulate, I guess, under the exercise boundaries, conditions for up to 100,000 disaster victims that need housing, sheltering, clothing, and feeding, as well as being reunified. But FEMA request for information / mass care turnkey sheltering support. Sheltering support, guys, what do I need to tell you about that? If you haven't already noticed, it is SS, another SS reference regarding FEMA shelters. Let that sink in and make of it what you will. But this is solicitation number 70 FB 70 241 0000002, and the type is a pre-solicitation that in brackets is past due, and it was posted on the 1st of the 9th 2024 at 1:09 p.m. and it was updated on the 2nd of February 2024 at 2 p.m. Now there's a whole list of sort of hyperlinks to click on there that even with my optical assistance I am struggling to read. We could click on all of those or none of those, so we are going to choose to click on none of them though. But that NAICS category there has a 56190, all other support services. That might be interesting because you've almost got a sort of, well, no, you haven't got a 911, but you sort of got a 1 and a couple of 9s and a 6 in there for good measures. But let's come down here a little bit. There's opportunities here, more opportunities. life support services for the Tennessee Army National Guard, US Customs and Border Protection also have opportunities going there. But let's get down to the summary. I might have to enlarge this slightly. There we go. So this summary, this request is for information from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and it is seeking information from vendors regarding their capabilities to provide turnkey congregate sheltering services, SS congregate. Another way you could say congregate is concentrated, but they are looking for vendors to provide their services who have capabilities to provide turnkey congregate concentrated sheltering services in response to a major disaster. So back at the start of this year, FEMA was calling out for vendors to see if they had any turnkey shelter facilities, sheltering services facilities available to them in the event of a disaster. Just to clarify that, and so it's sort of seeking in advanced planning, preparations is what FEMA really are all about, and do they prepare in advance because they know exactly what is going to happen. But back to this article, the responses are requested to address capabilities for established, there's that soft-sided reference once again, another SS, or existing structure shelters, another SS if you like to drop the existing in the E from there. But they need soft-sided or existing structure shelters for up to 50,000 individuals for 90 days, including wraparound services and staffing, as well as providing 100,000 hot meals per day within 4 days of notice to proceed meals per day within 4 days notice to proceed. So they give them 4 days heads up. We need you to activate your sheltering system, and you are going to need to be able to provide meals, 100,000 hot meals a day for 50,000 people, and they need that within 4 days of notice to proceed. So capabilities for sheltering and supporting up to 4,000, and this is also including supporting up to 4,000 household pets or service animals daily for up to 60 days. So FEMA are requesting vendors to provide sheltering services for up to 50,000 people, 4,000 household animals and service animals for up to 60 days, folks. They need help. They've requested this. It's like something is going to happen, that they are going to require some of these turnkey shelters to provide housing and temporary homing for disaster survivors, including their pets, up to 60 days. And the responses should not exceed 5 pages and are due by February the 9th of 2024. That is already past date. So FEMA by now probably has all the vendors it needs to provide them with sheltering services at a 4-day given notice. But no set aside is designated for this pre-document. Responses should address the vendor's profile, technical approach, and relevant experiencing following the specified format. Key details include sheltering and supporting up to 50,000 individuals for 90 days, providing 100,000 meals per day within 4 days of notice to proceed, and sheltering 4,000 pets or service animals for daily for 60 days. And this request for information does not guarantee a future contract award and is issued solely for information gathering purposes. And that was generated on the 1st of the 9th, 2024 at 6:30 5:39 p.m. So I do got some photographs, as I mentioned probably earlier, of an Amazon facility, an Amazon warehouse in Pennsylvania that was sent to me by an anonymous YouTube viewer, a subscriber to this channel, that when I read this article for the first time a few weeks ago in FEMA Files Part 1, I believe, or maybe Part 2, he said, wait a minute, there's an Amazon factory, a warehouse rather, very close to where I live that is starting to look a little bit FEMA campy. And I said in the chat, is it far away? Would you be able to get photos or a video? Lo and behold, an hour or so later, that YouTube viewer had returned from going out on a recon mission and had emailed me some photos that we will see very, very shortly. But before we do, guys, we need to go over to FEMA themselves to look at a very, very recent article within the last 2 weeks regarding some of the contracts they have awarded for the coming year, with options to extend those contracts for up to 3 to 4 further years should be required. And some of the contracts and things they have obtained services for are all things needed for a mass casualty disaster: rations, medical services, airlifting, mobile transportation. There is a very, 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 very long list of contracts that FEMA has just awarded for a whole variety of disturbing things. So that is where we are heading next, folks. So before we do go and visit our fine friends at FEMA and their website regarding some of their recent acquisitions in contracts for services and products for the coming year and years to follow, let's check out the emails from, and I say emails plural, from that anonymous YouTube viewer that sent me pictures of that Amazon warehouse in Pennsylvania. And I say in emails plural because, unbeknownst to me, there were also 2 further follow-up emails from that anonymous YouTube viewer with further photographs of that Amazon facility, including some insider knowledge, insider information, some photographs of an employee that works there that took some photographs of what is going on inside. But this was the first article, and you have already seen these photographs if you are a regular offender or a recently renamed Nowrdian that does actually watch RD and pay attention to the content I do compile and edit together for educational, informative, dare I say it, entertainment purposes. But the email starts off by saying that the YouTube viewer that wishes to remain anonymous, you don't know how thankful I am for this. This is sort of what I've always sort of asked for, guys. Play an active part in the channel, be more than a community. A little bit more than just a community member, be more than just someone who turns up to say hello over and over again in chat. Go out, be boots on the ground, take some pictures or videos of strange things that you are seeing in your neighborhood, and pass them on to me to feature as viewer sent content here at NoOneWatchesArDee. But the email starts out by saying that a picture of the moon was also thrown in, and we will see that there, as well as some railroad tracks that are about a quarter of a mile up the same road, right by the old Pfalzgraff pottery factory. I think it's barbed wire on the fence, not razor. It looked like they only used about a quarter of the parking lot. Pretty sure the water tower thing is newish as well. This is in York, Pennsylvania, the state or the Commonwealth that is the host nation, not the host nation, the host state for the Keystone 6 Masscare national level exercise. And if you want to sign up with Andres, if you want to look it up, why the windows around the roof, I wonder. Anyway, I appreciate you. Good evening. The article, the email finishes off to say, But let's look at those photographs. This was the first one there. Sun setting on what does look to be quite a scary looking facility. I don't know if it's scary looking because I want it to be scary looking, but there you can see the addition of those high fences with the barbed wire on the top. There is confirmation it is an Amazon warehouse. There is a very similar shot from the distance of those high fences at what seems to be dusk. A wide shot of the facility from another angle. You can see the fence there and what was probably a loading bay or a parking lot for employees. Again, there is a distance, the sun in the distance. I'm not sure if this features the water tower looking thing. That is a road, I think, looking towards the facility, or is that the water tower? I'm not entirely sure. It'd be nice if we had the YouTube viewer live here with me to sort of tell us what they were seeing. But thanks for these photographs, and there are more to follow. And look at that, guys. I can see Richard Burton and Clint Eastwood tossing a grappling hook and then clambering up one side before descending the other, before going on some sort of clandestine covert operation infiltrating a Nazi base during World War II. Or maybe I could see Steve McQueen popping his head up a little bit short of the wooded area coverage in prime eyesight of the machine gun turrets, a little bit like we saw in The Great Escape. There is the picture of the moon. I wonder if FCM Transport LLC are a contractor to FEMA. Maybe that might be something to investigate, and that is the name there that we are witnessing on that container. And the reason I mention that because Urban Moving Solutions, the Israeli HQ in New Jersey, with a prime viewing spot for the events that unfolded on September the 11th, 2001, and was the location apparently that the dancing Israelis had frequented in their time in the United States of America in September of 2001. And there again, another Colditzy looking World War II prisoner of war camp type looking fence. I think it's because of the sort of trees and greeneries that give it that sort of WW2 prisoner of war camp feel to it. And I'm guessing that is the water tower in the distance. And that is the railroad crossing that is about a quarter of a mile up the road from that facility. That is becoming fortified by the looks of things. And there again you can see the wall from the outside and that fence that has been additionally extended. They've added that razor wire in the fence on top of the wall. It was already high enough and looked a little bit like a prison from the outside. Maybe it's just stopped disgruntled employees from escaping until their shift has ended. And that is the final one from this email, but the next email we will be going to instantaneously does include pictures that have come from an employee inside of this warehouse, so stay tuned for that. So as promised, here we are at the second of 3 emails sent to me by an anonymous YouTube viewer that did a little bit of boots on the ground recon, acting as a roving reporter and finding us some information and providing us with evidence of what they're seeing that looks a little bit suspicious in their neighborhood. And this email is a little bit shorter than the other one, but it said a friend who worked on the building before they opened it shared these. Roof and inside. He didn't mind if I shared them. Good day. So as he didn't mind I'm sharing them, let me share that one. And you can see how large this facility is just by the size of that 18-wheeler rig that is dwarfed in comparison by the size of that facility. An awful lot of space there for some beds and bunks and cots for 50,000 people for sure, and maybe a little bit of room for 4,000 pets. So is this evidence of Amazon providing a shelter service to FEMA, and are they getting ready to fill this with disaster victims? And I believe this is the photograph from the roof, and just look how wide that's pans out to. I mean, obviously we can see the edge of it, but you could probably get a football field or two upon that rooftop for sure. And a couple of cute little cotton-like clouds, and otherwise a blue sky. But you can see there, guys, a very large facility, and there are a couple of photos that come from us courtesy of an employee that worked inside of this facility before they owned it. So one more final email from that anonymous YouTube viewer before we head over and visit our fine friends at FEMA. So the third and final installment, the third part, the trilogy of emails from that anonymous YouTube viewer that clarifies something that didn't make sense in the first email to me. But it says, "Hi RD, sorry, I somehow didn't send half of the pics. I mentioned the sign with the address if you wanted to look it up, then didn't even send that one." And there's a emoji there, and that is a contextual use of an emoji, so we will allow it. Again, sorry, no need to apologize. I apologize for not seeing these sooner. You went beyond the call of duty and beyond any service requirements any YouTube viewer should really go to, and the lengths of extremities that you did go to provide us with these pictures, as I said, is greatly appreciated. We could do with a few more viewers like this, and a few less that seem to want to just sort of turn up and talk about themselves or other things that aren't even remotely related to what I am trying to inform you of. And there is that Amazon Fulfillment Center, Fulfillment FF, false flag, visitors and associates go that way, all trucks the other way, and there is the address, 5125 Commerce Drive, York, Pennsylvania, the host state to the national level exercise Masscare event, Keystone 6. Some more photos of the fences outside and some trucks lined up. And look how high that is, guys, compared to those trucks. You know, those trucks stand at least sort of 20-25 feet tall. So those are some pretty high walls there, and some pretty high fencing. Another long shot of that facility with some grassy knolls on the outside of it. I wonder if there are snipers hidden in the trees, possibly, maybe on the rooftops. Who knows? And it does look a little bit similar to that soft-sided facility that we saw in Arizona in Migrant Solutions also. And FEMA involvement going on there. Like I say, guys, FEMA are very active at the moment. They are up to all sorts of no good, or it could just be for the welfare and well-being of United States citizens. And there is I guess the entirety of that facility, that from the distance there, is still very impressively large. Is that the water tower possibly in the foreground there? But again, thank you so very much. And look, you've got right up to the fence, it would look there, or are you actually in the car park? Now, is this just a warehouse facility, or sort of, I mean, I don't know if you can answer this, anonymous YouTube viewer, but perhaps, you know, is it sort of a pickup, or can you sort of drop stuff up there for it to be delivered, or can you go there and collect your items? Is that a sort of, you know, is it open to the public, or do you have to sort of be an employee to access this? But a very large facility, guys, and I must admit, I have been incarcerated, and it doesn't look too dissimilar from a correctional facility. So let's scroll back through those pictures provided by the anonymous YouTube viewer of that Amazon warehouse in Pennsylvania that is been fortified in recent weeks. And there you can see it, the Amazon Fulfillment Center, 5125 Commerce Drive, York, Pennsylvania. So again, thank you so very much for sending us those, and a shout out to you, anonymous YouTube viewer, and a call to action, guys. If you see anything similar like this, if you've got a Walmart, we do know FEMA and Walmart do buddy up and have a partnership and agreement to provide facilities to FEMA in the events of disasters, but that doesn't necessarily exclude exclude other vendors such as Amazon, perhaps Targets. We do know there's been a whole lot of store closures, especially Walmart closures in the last sort of 12 to 18 months. A lot of empty warehouses standing dormant, and are these standing dormant? Have they been emptied? Have they been closed down purposely and preemptively for an impending imminent disaster that FEMA are all too aware about and are making provisions and providing all that they need to assist them with the cleanup operation, and they're using the national level exercise Masscare event Keystone 6 as a cover screen to put all they need into place prior to the event happening that may already be active. But we are heading over to FEMA right now to check some of those recently acquired contracts and some of the things that those contracts are for. Also support the theory that FEMA are ready for something and are putting all they need in place for an imminent disaster. But your views and opinions may not mask or mirror mine, and as always, guys, please make of this what you will. Okay guys, as promised, we are about to jump in to FEMA.gov for an obligatory visit to our fine friends at FEMA's website. But before we do, I just want to point something out. Though we are about to read Advanced Contracts of Goods and Services, which was first published on the 30th of April 2024, just under 2 weeks ago at time of recording. But it says there, look, contract coverage through to June 29th, which would be around about 60 days, June 29th, 2024, with options through to June of 2027. Megawattage LLC, infant and toddler shelter supply items, and infant and toddler, that goes on to say, but we can't read the rest. Now, warning guys, this is pretty long, and I am reading it in landscape mode to try and make this website a little bit easier to navigate. As you may see, it is a little bit strange in its format layout. And as you can see, guys, we are here at FEMA.gov for business organizations stroke business doings, or doing business. Advanced Contracts of Goods and Services. So these are contracts that FEMA have made in advance for the receivement of goods and services should the time be required, or the time prevail that they require such goods and services. But let's start out by reading this, folks. FEMA Advanced Contracts for Goods and Services are completed and awarded in advance of a major disaster declaration, and this is to provide efficient, cost-effective means for rapid delivery of supplies and services for reoccurring disaster response and recovery requirements. So you can search the complete list of FEMA advanced contracts, but in FY financial year 2024, FEMA has 102 advanced contracts in 47 mission essential areas, and 102 to get through. You can imagine there's quite a lot of content in this article, but some of these articles they have, as you said there, in 47, although they have 102 advanced contracts, they are for 47 missions. So some of these contracts are duplicated, but this is the first 10, so we will be able to skip some of these guys, but there's 11 pages to get through. If or not we get through all 11, who knows? But at the moment, that is the intention. But the first one is for air evacuation, aviation, and ground services, support services for large-scale disasters. And in brackets there, CONUS and OCONUS, I'm pretty sure that stands for something, but this is a contract for aviation and ground support, evacuation at airports. CONUS and OCONUS Seriously, con us, folks. Are you trying to con us, FEMA? But this contract coverage is through to September 20th, 2024, with options through to September 20th of 2026. Another one for air evacuation and ground control services, very similar. The third one is for air transportation support services, and this is for air transportation services, and it is a contract that runs through to October 12th of this year, with extensions through to 2027 of October. More air transportation, ambulance, EMT and paramedics. This contract provides air and ground ambulance paratransit supports in services in zones 1, the Atlantic, 2, the Gulf Coast, zones 3, Pacific, and 4, Central United States. Optional line items will be negotiated if exercised. All zone coverage is through till April 30th of 2025, with an extension option to April of 2027. This one is interesting, folks. They have a contract, an advanced contract for behavioral and medical health services, and there you can see it is for FEMA employees at fixed sites and disaster sites, including remote areas and locations within the United States and territories. Services include behavioral health services, oversight and management, behavioral health stress counselors, employee assistance program, enhanced work life support and vaccinations, stand-up and support in regional external health units, fixed sites and registered nurse supports at the headquarters during activation of the NRCC, and coverage of that is through to November 30th of this year, and there is an extension. This is where it starts to get interesting, guys. They have an advanced contract for boxed and bottled water for disaster survivors. March 3rd, 2025, that coverage expires with the option to extend it to 2027. Another one for boxed and bottled water. Commercial and reduced sodium meals, rations, folks, MREs, shelf stable 30 to 36 months, self-heating, reduced sodium, so they have self-heating units with these rations. I've done lots of ration reviews in my time over at TSP TV, and this is what they're talking about. They have an advanced contract for meals ready to eat that come with self-heating units, and they are supposedly reduced sodium and commercial meals for the purposes of survivors. This is an IDIQ, which is a task order dependent, and the contract coverage again through to March 17th. Let's click on page 2. Now, for some reason, we have to go from top to bottom on this, or do we? Yeah, we kind of do, which is going to be awkward. Let me scroll to the top and come back down to the bottom. So this is page 2, so this is another 10 entries. More shelf-stable meals required there. Another contract, which is similar to the one we just read. Another one for commercial. So there's 4 contracts we've seen so far for meals. Another one for reduced meals. This one is for commercial logistic augmentation support services. Class, commercial logistics augmentation and support services to support movement control requirements for the management and tracking of resources from end to end during high disaster years. And this contract coverage is till May 25, 2024, so that expires in just a couple of weeks. Some more logistical ones. Consumable medical supply shelter supports items. This contract provides kit items for FEMA to purchase as needed on requirements set forth by FEMA. FEMA will not be warehousing these support items, as they will be ordered on a as-need basis. 2 support shelters assess folks with a general population of 100 persons in an affected jurisdiction. And coverage of that ends June 20th, 2024. Lots of 20s there. more medical supplies, more consumable medical supplies. So as I said, guys, some of these contracts are very, very similar, and what we might do is skip ahead like to page 5. As I said, we don't want to get too lumbered down with reading everything in this, but some of these are very, very important. As you can see, guys, that some or pretty much all of these contracts are for a list of requirements that would be needed during or post a natural or man-made disaster. Here we are, guys, page 5. Infant and toddler shelter supply items. So this is another thing FEMA has an advanced contract for: infant and toddler items and kits for steady state and emergency response. Steady state, guys, do I need to point out, is SS. Supplies for children under 3 years of age. IDIQ task order dependent contract through to September 26th of 2024. More infant and toddler shelter supply items, logistics supply chain management, more logistics support. Mail operations is another contract, more mail operations there. MERS mobile satellite services, a disaster contingency satellite network support, and that runs through to July 31st of this year. Missing and exploited child alert services, interesting one here, folks. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, a contract provides alert services during response and recovery of federally declared disasters. Contract coverage is through to July 13th of this year, 2024. Mobile Disaster Recovery Center satellite airtime. So let's just scroll quickly through some of these, guys. What was that one? We'll just read them on the side. Mobile Disaster Recovery, again, similar to the one above. So let's go right through to the last one. There you can see FEMA.gov, an official website of the United States Department of Homeland Security. What is this one for? Transportable Temporary Housing Unit Program. The Transportable Temporary Housing Unit Program, National Log House Program, supports survivors during federally declared disasters, and services include hauling, install, maintenance, deactivation, and group site construction of temporary manufactured housing. Contract coverage runs through to January 2nd of next year. Again, I think this will be similar there. They want some log cabins. So that was the final 2 contracts. Let's see if we can look at page 10. See if there's anything interesting there. Let's come down to the bottom and go up again. Don't know why that seems to be easier, but it isn't somehow. Again, more log cabins required. This looks like more log cabins. More log cabins. So they're needing a lot of transportable housing units, it seems. Shelter supplies for infants and toddlers, MREs, logistical support and assistance, air evacuation contracts, and yeah, nearly, oh goodness, what happened there? All of these are for housing units. So guys, let me come down and click on, I do want to read them all, I do want to go through them all. Let's go to page 8, and that will be the last one we look. Oh my goodness, demobilization, base camps. What's this for? Temporary support facilities, wonderful, formerly known as a National Responder Support Camp, RSC, operational services. Temporary support facilities. The scope provides support services for responders inclusive of mobilization, site preparation, installation, base camp management and operation, and demobilization as set forth in task orders. So that was an interesting one. But that is, I guess, a site for FEMA employees to reside in while they are supporting a cleanup operation. And you would sort of suggest or surmise rather that if they are putting in sort of temporary facility sites for their employees, then that cleanup and rescue operation could be a long haul one. And there you go, guys, more for temporary support facilities, telephone interpretation services. So these are all contracts, guys, that FEMA have acquired for the financial year of 2024. Some of these do run out within a few weeks, some of them within a few months, some of them, as we see, run out in January of next year. Let's click on page 7. Response and capability transportation support during disasters. As I did want to sort of try and click on as many of these as we can. And as you can see, quite a lot of these contracts are very, very similar. Oh my goodness, something in Alaska there. Caver, Freight and Crowley. This one looks as though it's a little bit interesting, quite long. Resource capability, transportation support during disasters in Alaska. You know what, let's just go down to the bottom and click page 6, and I think we might have to look at page 4 just to have read them. 11 pages. This one goes through to September 30th of 2024, whatever this is for. Patek provides public assistance, technical assistance. Again, another similar one. Scroll up a little bit more. Public assistance. So many of these are the same. Something going on in Puerto Rico in the Virgin Islands. What's this one about? PTS risk map, production and technical services for architect and engineering services, nationwide contract performing and providing PTS support of FEMA risk map and TARC programs. This includes 3 signal award contracts. Each single award contract supports geographic region. Fair opportunity does not apply and may not be used. Orders shall be placed directly with the applicable contractor. Support within applicable FEMA region zone 1 and to support FEMA regions 1, 2, 3 and 5, including Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. That was a little bit interesting. A similar one above there. What is this one? Capacity modernization program. Nowrd. This looks interesting. Mobile disaster recovery center. Satellite airtime in support of enterprise infrastructure solution. Satellite airtime enables MDRC communication and access to FEMA networks and communications for disaster operations. And in addition, it supports the national warning system and the contact center capability, modernization program. Nowrd coverages through to June. What is it? The top there is another one for mobile disaster recovery center satellite airtime. And let's click on page 4, guys. And actually, let's not, because I don't think we can. That was page 5. There's page 4. Housing inspection services. Housing inspection services contract coverage for OCONUS, USA territories and Native American reservations. Services provided damage assessments of survivors' properties and occupancy and ownership verification and related services for grant assistance. So that was an interesting one. Looks like that one above is for the similar one. This one looks different. And this one is for hazard mitigation technical assistance. It provides FEMA with greater capability and capacity in meeting pre-disaster, during disaster, and post-disaster mitigation and environmental responsibilities. Non-architecture and engineering, and there's another hazard mitigation one there, guys. So that is it. You see there's a lot of similar contracts have been awarded. There's something more for OCONUS and OCONUS. The purpose of this indefinite delivery, indefinite quality, is to procure generators for logistic management and fleet management, and generators above again. And that is it, guys. That concludes our visit to our fine friends at FEMA's website to look at some of their advanced contracts for goods and services for the financial year of 2024. And it does look as though They are expecting an awful lot of disasters, judging by the amount of contracts they have obtained, 102 of them. So we are now going to leave FEMA and head over to some more recent mainstream news reports about some of those devastating high-impact weather events that have occurred within the last 24 to 48 hours at time of recording. So I'm going to give you a little break for a while, guys, of having to listen to my voice and provide you with some visual information.
We're continuing the conversation around emergency preparedness with meteorologist Mark Robinson. Of course, Mark, you have seen hurricanes and wildfires firsthand. You've seen how quickly it can change a community, can change people's lives.
We are now under an evacuation order. We're not waiting. We're not waiting. We just hope that there's something to come back to when this settles.
Now let's talk about wildfires, because 2023, it was unprecedented. It was the largest wildfire season on record across Canada. Yeah. It affected every single province, whether it was massive evacuations or the smoke that choked out cities. What's your advice to Canadians leading into this season? You know, I think there's a lot of anxiety around wildfires.
Definitely. I mean, the one thing is that that 2023 season was somewhat unique. There was a couple of events that happened that aren't necessarily going to happen again. And one of the things I've been watching for myself is how much rain has been falling in areas like Ontario and Quebec, some of those areas where we get a lot of fires. And it's a lot more than we saw in 2023. But if we go to the west, that's dry. So we may see those things. So again, it all comes down to preparation. Yeah. Being prepared for it, listening to what's going on, just being aware of the dangers in your community and what you have to do if you have to leave.
Now, Mark, when we look at hurricane season right now, of course, people in Atlantic Canada, they've tuned in. They want to hear what you have to say. Yeah. What can they do now in order to prepare for a potentially very active season ahead?
If you want to be ready, one of the things you should probably be doing at this point is checking emergency supplies at home. Do it now before, 5 minutes before, when everybody rushes to the stores to get all their emergency supplies. You don't want to do that. Make sure you've got it ready now. Remove any dead limbs from trees. Remove dead trees. Make sure that your house, if you know you've got a shingle leak, make sure that that's dealt with. These storms can produce tremendous amounts of water. And you don't want to be dealing with a basement leak in the middle of a hurricane. So it's just getting prepared for it now. Better have everything prepared and not need it than need it and not be prepared.
Yeah, and knowing where you live and what risks there are to your community and your region, right? Now, when it comes to evacuations, we can see them within hurricanes, we can see them within wildfires. When you get a notice that you should evacuate now, immediately, what's your advice to that?
Pay attention. I mean, that's the reality that it comes down to, is pay attention to it, take it seriously. Don't say, oh, it's never happened before. I watched it happen in Katrina where they said, oh, it's going to be fine, and Katrina wiped out cities. So this is the kind of thing, just pay attention to what people are saying right now.
All right, Mark, thank you so much for joining us today, for
My
getting
pleasure.
Canadians ready and just aware of the type of weather and the type of situation that could unfold in your neighborhood.
As reports of damage continue to trickle in, we are hearing more stories from people who had some very close calls and a lot of cleanup ahead.
Well, here's a look at what many of you are dealing with, what you went through, and where things stand tonight.
A powerful and deadly storm system wreaking havoc on Tennessee. Thursday morning in the eastern part of the state, Brittany Smart sent us these pictures. Residents stranded by washed out roads in Grundy County. This after the same powerful storm rocked the mid-state Wednesday night. Out in Smith County, trees toppled over on cars, damage to a church, and powerful winds took a front door right off its hinges. Making our way west in Cheatham County, Doug Ryan sends us high-rushing floodwaters. The Sycamore Dam 7 feet from flood stage. Up 13 feet, it's the 7th highest ever historic crest. A GoFundMe page set up for Spirit Horse Stables in Columbia after a debris-confirmed tornado touched down and wiped out the barn, leaving 6 to 8 horses severely injured. And Brian Watt sending in more tornado damage out of Columbia, one of the hardest hit areas in the mid-state. Meanwhile, flash flooding on Honey Run Creek off Horseshoe Road. And Goodlettsville wasn't spared either. This is near Old Spring Hill Pike, and campers stranded in high flood waters near the Grand Ole Opry RV Park. Impressive lightning taking over the night sky in Crossville. And Columbia Fire Rescue sending us a reminder of the impact of dangerous flooded roadways, an overturned semi-truck blocking the interstate. And the city of Spring Hill sending us these pictures, trying to spring back after the force of Mother Nature mangled and snapped power lines, damaged homes, took down trees and roofs right off of homes.
Well, if you have photos or videos from the aftermath of those storms, we'd love to see them. You can send them our way. Just go to fox17.com/chime in.
The people across the southeast are dealing with damage this morning after severe storms and tornadoes tore through the region. At least 3 people were killed, 2 in Tennessee and 1 in North Carolina. Manuel Bojorquez is in Alabama.
A third straight night of severe weather, this time cutting across the deep south. Tornadoes struck towns north of Birmingham, including this industrial zone in Madison County, where it stripped these metal buildings to shreds. Officials in northern Alabama say there was major damage to towns and reported injuries and worked through the night to rescue residents from their homes. The intense storms coming after another day of active tornadoes that bore down on 6 states Wednesday.
Violent tornado.
This tornado bore down in Clarksville, Tennessee, outside of Nashville. And just to the south in Maury County, the wreckage left behind by a tornado was everywhere. Splintered trees, collapsed roofs, and gutted homes littered parts of the town of Spring Hill. Spring Hill's mayor confirmed there was at least 1 fatality.
We are in a search and rescue mode. We are going from house to house to make sure that everybody is okay.
The storms even hitting close to home for this first responder.
My parents' house was damaged right up the road, so I'm very familiar with the area. It's pretty devastating.
But it wasn't only about tornadoes and wind. To Nashville's north in Gallatin, a life-threatening flash flood warning was issued. High water stranded drivers. Meanwhile, in Kentucky, this funnel cloud was spotted in Paducah as a severe storm approached. And the extreme weather stretched east to Charlotte, North Carolina, where high winds up to 60 miles per hour caused this tree to fall and crush the car below it.
Back here in Henniger, Alabama, a bit of good news that was shared by the fire chief to CBS News. He says that so far there have been no deaths or serious injuries reported, despite the type of damage and destruction that you're seeing here. Although, as we mentioned off the top of our report, this remains an active weather situation.
I mean, Manny, whenever I see, scenes like the one that's behind you, I can't even imagine what the cleanup effort even looks like, plus the rebuilding effort. But can you talk to us a little bit about what will be needed in terms of cleanup in a place like this?
Oh, there will be a lot of cleanup going on here once the storms clear. We've already seen them trying to clear access to roads that were blocked by big trees so that they can get power crews into some of these areas. Power lines and poles are down, so the power is out to a lot of people here as well. But this is the type of cleanup that will take weeks, months, really. If they want to rebuild, they may have to just clear this house completely down to the slab because of the destruction there.
Wow. All right, Manny, thank you so much.
Thousands of people across the southeast are cleaning up today after severe storms and tornadoes tore through the region. At least 3 people were killed, 2 in Tennessee and 1 in North Carolina. CBS News national correspondent Dave Malkoff is in western Tennessee following the storms for us. Hey there, Dave. I see that you're actually in a car. I know that you were traveling from the last deadly tornado outbreak that you were covering to this one. Where are you now?
Hi, Lana. We just crossed over the Mississippi River, so we're in Tennessee right now. We're coming from Barnsdall, Oklahoma, where 70 homes were torn down by an EF4 tornado that came through several neighborhoods there. A lot of people are devastated by that. There was at least 1 fatality. And as we were driving, we actually drove through Miami, Oklahoma. You're seeing our video from our car as we were driving through there. And we got hit by hail. There were tornado vortex signatures around us that's indicating from radar that tornadoes were around there, and a lot of people were slowing down, taking their time. We decided to actually get off of the highway and spend the night in Oklahoma so we could actually get on the road starting at 5 a.m. today to check out what's happening in the Nashville area and the Memphis area. That's where a lot of the tornadoes are happening today and yesterday.
Well, I'm glad you got off those roads. We always give that advice to other people. I'm glad that you listened to it. I'm wondering, Dave, if you've been speaking with people and what they've told you about being impacted by the storms.
Yeah, there are at least 3 deaths 20 miles south of Nashville in Columbia, Tennessee. They say that there was a path of destruction. The officials in Columbia say that there's a path of destruction that's about 2 miles long there. And then if you go north of Knoxville, same thing happened out Charlotte, North Carolina. So you see how far and wide this is spread. 1 person died in that car as well when they down on them. The person was injured inside that car. And right now we're trying to get to that area in Columbia so we can try to tell the story of what's going on there. And we will have that on for the CBS Evening News coming up tonight with Nowrd.
All right. Dave Malkoff traveling for us. Thank you, Dave.
Weather that's hitting the middle of the country, including destructive tornadoes in Tennessee. In the hard-hit town of Columbia, people are just beginning to wake up, start to pick up the pieces after a tornado ripped through the area. That is where NBC News correspondent Priya Sridhar is this morning. Priya, good morning.
Good morning. This area just 45 miles outside of Nashville took a direct hit when a powerful twister touched down here, destroying homes like the one behind me. And now officials are saying that there are at least 3 storm-related fatalities and several more injuries.
Overnight in the Midwest and South, another round of destructive weather. In Columbia, Tennessee, tornadoes reducing homes to rubble.
This is a catastrophic tornado. It is one of the more severe storms we've probably seen in the last 5 to 10 years.
A huge swath of forest leveled, with trees snapped like matchsticks. Lives uprooted in Maury County, Tennessee.
I started seeing the clouds, and that's when I heard the roar, and that's when I hollered at everybody to get in the closet, and then the next thing we knew, we heard just seen sky. My house is gone. It's just gone. I lost 2 dogs, and we're still looking for my mom and my aunt.
More than 80 twisters across 17 states over the last 3 days. The storms bringing chaos across the South, intense rain and flooding. Entire cities without power, cars crushed by reported tornadoes. Large hail, heavy rains, and high winds turning deadly in Lone Mountain, Tennessee, where a tree fell on a car, killing a 22-year-old man. In Portage, Michigan, a massive cleanup effort now underway in neighborhoods shredded by a massive tornado. This house flipped completely upside down with a couple in their 60s inside. The state's governor declaring a state of emergency in 4 counties.
The devastation's real. There are a lot of displaced families.
And in just the last week across the country, there have been 214 tornado warnings issued, which have many forecasters saying that the nation's so-called tornado alley is actually widening its footprint to more populated areas in places like here in Tennessee, Mississippi, and the Ohio River Valley. Savannah?
All right, Priya, thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
It's like a freight train coming through.
One day after deadly tornadoes tore through the south, another round of severe weather is threatening the region. Forecasters say large hail, damaging wind gusts, and more twisters are targeting multiple states on Thursday as people try to recover what's left of their communities.
Oh my gosh, I feel it. It is moving this trunk.
On Wednesday, severe storms pummeled parts of Tennessee and North Carolina, leaving at least 3 people dead. The system spun powerful tornadoes and wind gusts that tore through communities and toppled power lines. Torrential rain and thunderstorms called for water rescues.
There was hail coming down, rain from all angles. The wind was pushing the car on the left side of the road, right side of the road, trees. I watched 3 trees fall.
The National Weather Service says one of those tornadoes touched down here in Columbia, Tennessee, about 45 miles south of Nashville. Local officials say it destroyed several homes in the area as people tried to seek shelter, leading emergency crews to rescue trapped victims. People here say this tight-knit community is showing up for one another.
So many emotions that run through this, right? Because I had probably like 30 people reach out to me and ask me if I was okay. Everybody's trying to help people, you know, and so that's the beauty of a small town, of a small community.
Forecasters say the South could see additional storms before the skies finally clear over the weekend. In Columbia, Tennessee, Max Gordon, Fox 32 Chicago. Tia, back to you.
Well, another wallop of extreme weather hitting the nation's midsection, including destructive tornadoes in Tennessee.
At least 3 people have died, and rescuers have barely begun to be able to assess property damage there. NBC's Priya Sridhar has more from hard-hit Columbia, Tennessee.
Overnight in the Midwest and South, another round of destructive weather. In Columbia, Tennessee, tornadoes reducing homes to rubble.
This is a catastrophic tornado. It is one of the more severe storms we've probably seen in the last 5 to 10 years.
A huge swath of forest leveled, with trees snapped like matchsticks. Lives uprooted in Maury County, Tennessee.
I started seeing the clouds, and that's when I heard the roar, and that's when I hollered at everybody to get in the closet, and the next thing we knew, we heard just seen sky. My house is gone. It's just gone. I lost 2 dogs, and we're still looking for my mom and my aunt.
More than 80 twisters across 17 states over the last 3 days. The storms bringing chaos across the South, intense rain and flooding. Entire cities without power, cars crushed by reported tornadoes. Large hail, heavy rains, and high winds turning deadly in Lone Mountain, Tennessee, where a tree fell on a car, killing a 22-year-old man. In Portage, Michigan, a massive cleanup effort now underway in neighborhoods shredded by a massive tornado. This house flipped completely upside down with a couple in their 60s inside. The state's governor declaring a state of emergency in 4 counties.
The devastation's real. There are a lot of displaced families.
Priya Sridhar reporting. This weather comes on the heels of a stormy April when meteorologists recorded 300 tornadoes. That's the second most on record for them.
house is still standing. Didn't even get blown off.
footage of where the tornado just went through in Smithville. As you can see, it definitely tore through this area. Looks like, oh yeah, it got this house. Got everything through here. This house has extensive damage.
Look how big a chunks are coming in now. Get back! That's on. That's wrong. That's bad.
Deadly weather in the south. Tennessee was hit hard. You can see this tornado touching down in Clarksville yesterday. This is the damage from another storm about 75 miles away just south of Nashville. And the extreme weather is not letting up, with more danger ahead today. Alabama is also feeling the impact of these storms. Manuel Bojorquez is in the city of Henniger. Manny, good morning.
Good morning. Last night's tornado emergency extended into this morning because when we arrived here in Henniger, Alabama, the tornado sirens were going off yet again. Behind me is some of the destruction left behind by the tornado that struck around midnight. You can see this home is destroyed. The man who lives here said he survived by staying in his fireplace when the tornado hit. And there are trees down all around us. People were trapped in their homes in this area, but officials say they've all been rescued so far as northern Alabama deals with the aftermath of multiple tornadoes.
A third straight night of severe weather, this time cutting across the deep south. Tornadoes struck towns north of Birmingham, including this industrial zone in Madison County, where it stripped these metal buildings to shreds. Officials in northern Alabama say there was major damage to towns and reported injuries and worked through the night to rescue residents from their homes. The intense storms coming after another day of active tornadoes that bore down on 6 states Wednesday.
Violent tornado.
This tornado bore down in Clarksville, Tennessee, outside of Nashville. And just to the south in Maury County, the wreckage left behind by a tornado was everywhere. Splintered trees, collapsed roofs, and gutted homes littered parts of the town of Spring Hill. Spring Hill's mayor confirmed there was at least one fatality.
We are in a search and rescue mode. We are going from house to house to make sure that everybody is okay.
The storms even hitting close to home for this first responder.
My parents' house was damaged right up the road, so I'm very familiar with the area. It's pretty devastating.
But it wasn't only about tornadoes and wind. To Nashville's north in Gallatin, a life-threatening flash flood warning was issued. High water stranded drivers. Meanwhile, in Kentucky, this funnel cloud was spotted in Paducah as a severe storm approached. And the extreme weather stretched east to Charlotte, North Carolina, where high winds up to 60 miles per hour caused this tree to fall and crush the car below it.
Back here in Henniger, Alabama, the fire chief tells CBS News they're feeling lucky that despite damage like this, so far there have been no reports of deaths or serious injuries.
Series of deadly storms have ripped across America, wreaking havoc on thousands of people, hundreds of thousands without power. These are deadly storms, and we're still expecting to see more of these. And joining me now is CBN's Drew Friedrich. Drew, you're with Operation Blessing, and you guys are on the ground and you're helping out. This has been a crazy string of storms going on right now.
It has, Dan. It's really been 2 months. I mean, for us, it started in Ohio. Then it moved to Louisiana, and then just recently, I think last week, there was over 100 tornadoes that hit. So we've got teams kind of dispersed. We're wrapping up some work in Nebraska this week. We've got guys on the ground in Texas with flooding that's going on there. And so we just feel like we're kind of going in every direction, but the Lord keeps opening doors for us to go minister, so we're going to keep showing up.
Yeah. What kinds of, what are the types of, I mean, obviously there's, we can see in this footage here, a lot of houses just completely torn apart. What are the main sorts of needs that you guys are seeing right now?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, is in the immediate aftermath, oftentimes it's like food and water, because people's homes have been destroyed and so they don't have anything. Their, refrigerators are gone. But also a lot of what we've been able to do is to really help cut down trees that have fallen on houses, make sure that there's no further damage or injury to people by those, trees or limbs moving. And so we've got heavy duty equipment, we've got chainsaws, we've got teams of volunteers kind of removing that from people's houses. If the house is still intact, we're often tarping those houses because, you're never too far away from a rainstorm after a tornado, it seems. And so we're trying to keep whatever's left in the house intact, dry. And so really that's a lot of it. And then there's always the cleanup process. So we've got a great partnership with the Home Depot. We're able to provide Home Depot cleanup kits that we pack with our volunteers, and they have things like gloves and trash bags and masks and all the things you might need to begin cleaning up in the aftermath of a storm like this. And so the needs vary from storm to storm, obviously, but typically what we see is just destruction that we can help kind of clear and begin to give them a chance to rebuild from sort of a fresh surface.
Yeah. And you mentioned that the storms are kind of still coming, and like that's got to be an extra weight. I mean, people get displaced from their homes. Some people maybe just their home isn't completely destroyed, but they've got damage. And then now these rainstorms and hailstorms come in, so it's kind of like it's kind of like getting hit with another round, uppercut right after you've just been, smacked in the face. Yeah. It's a tough 1-2 punch there.
Yeah, it really is, and that's why it's so critical for us to have great partnerships on the ground with local churches, because they're there for the long haul. We often can kind of park one of our tractor trailers there that's full of these relief supplies. And so, again, your need on day one might be different than your need on day 4. You might not need a tarp day 1. Maybe you just need food and water. But because we've got these long-term partnerships in these communities, we're able to offer those solutions over the long haul. But it really is challenging. In fact, the challenging part for us as a leadership team here is trying to make sure that our own people aren't in harm's way as well, because we can't provide any help if our people are in trouble. So trying to kind of navigate all that where there's so many tornadoes and storms across the whole part of the country has been a bit of a challenge for us, and it's been a busier season than normal. And you just see, it just tends to happen to some of the poorer communities seems to be where some of these things happen. And so, you go in and you want to just be sure that people are safe, that they've got, food and water to feed their families, and or at least for several days right afterwards. And nobody's immune to storms, certainly, but oftentimes it's those folks that don't have the resources to kind of get back up on their own 2 feet. That's where we can step in with our church partners and really provide some help.
Yeah. And for people who want to help, make sure you go to ob.org. You can go there. You can chip in. You can, if you can't physically be there, like a lot of people can't, that's a great way to help out. So tell me about, you mentioned the churches that you're working with there. Tell me about what some of that looks like. And obviously people going through, and you mentioned a lot of these poorer communities going through something like this, there's obviously a spiritual element too, right? It's one thing if it's just a little bit of damage and you can rebound quickly, but when your whole life is upended, so people have sometimes been in these houses for their entire lives, and then to have it all ripped apart, I mean, that is a very tough experience for anyone to go to, and it can be a trying time spiritually. So what sort of efforts on that front do you guys engage with the churches?
Yeah, the churches are really a critical piece of what we do. It does give us sort of a home base of operations. So, oftentimes folks will come to us and they'll submit work orders and say, hey, I've got a tree that's fallen on my house, or I need some help, mucking and gutting. There's damage and there's water in my house. I need to pull out the carpet. So that's part of it, is just sort of a base of operations. But really, it gives us a distribution hub to hand out things like food and water and hygiene kits and these cleanup buckets. And also, they provide volunteers for us, which is really a critical piece, because we want to touch as many lives as we can, and we can only send so many staff members. So volunteers are a huge piece of it. The churches play a massive role in that. And when the volunteers from these churches go out with our teams, the thing that maybe differentiates us from some of the other nonprofits that might show up is we bring the hope of the gospel with us. And so we're out there being able to pray with people and really remind them that though this is a very, definitely a challenging day, there are better days ahead, that God is still with them in that moment, and that there's hope ahead and better days ahead. And so, those teams being able to pray with them is often such an encouragement when they can be so down and so devastated after a storm like this.
Yeah. And so, as we mentioned, there's obviously a lot of storms happening across the U.S. right now, but this isn't the only area that you guys are involved in. I wanted to show this clip here of what's going on in Brazil. And take a look at this. I mean, they're flooding absolutely crazy. They're comparing this. Some people are starting to say this might be as bad as Katrina was back when that happened. I think in 2005 that was. But the flooding there right in the midst of a city, and you can see these houses completely underwater pretty much. Horse standing there on top of the roof. This is from a local TV news station down there in Brazil. So talk about how you guys are able to help in Brazil and what you're trying and what they're going through there and what you guys are trying to do to help.
Yeah, I think the challenge, there's so many parts of Brazil that are very developed and are robust, but also there's places where the infrastructure is just not as strong as it maybe should be. And so we've got a team from 5 different countries across Latin America that have all gathered in Brazil, and they'll be providing medical care and clean water and hot meals for people who've been displaced, hygiene kits. Same kind of thing that we do here. It always looks a little bit different depending on the country that we're going to. But as you can tell, I mean, there's a horse standing on a roof. That's not something you see every Thursday,
No.
So for us, it's a chance to go in there and really be able to again, link arms with local partners. We've got great church partners around the world, and be able to say, what are the needs here? We always want to be sure that we're not just providing a cookie cutter solution, but that we can identify what's the greatest need in this community and how can we do that. And so that's one of the real blessings of Operation Blessing, is that we're a global organization. We've been trying to build some strength and capacity around the world so that wherever something like this happens, we have a team in the region that can respond. And so, as I mentioned, we've got a team pulled together from Latin America, 5 different countries, that's going to show up in Brazil and bring hope to people there in the midst of this. And the challenge is really right now, Dan, waiting for this water to recede, because you can't even get to some of these houses right now. It really is a challenge until that water starts to pull back.
Yeah. When did this flooding start? I mean, it started a little while ago, right? I don't know which day. Let me know what day it starts. But like you said, they've been waiting for this water to go back, but it's still there.
Yeah, we started, talking about it on our end Saturday here, but it had already kind of begun a little bit before that. Saturday is when we begin to see, entire roadways washed away, bridges collapsing. And so that's when, as a group, we're having to go, from this side and say, are we going in or are we not going in? What can we do? We never want to go in if we can't provide a solution, then you're just in the way. And honestly, with all the storms here in the U.S., it wasn't getting as much news coverage. And so you have to say, hey, are people going to stand with us and give to support these efforts? But there comes a point for us, especially where we work in Latin America heavily as Operation Blessing. We felt like we need to go because it's the right thing to do. And so our guys were passionate and asking us for permission to go. We put them on a plane. We sent one guy from here in Virginia Beach. And so it's been a week of kind of planning and linking and making connections and preparation. And they hit the ground, actually getting there today, some of them. But we've already been kind of doing some work behind the scenes, and we're linking to provide these hot meals, to make sure that we're giving clean water solutions, providing medical care. You can imagine when roads are collapsing and people are evacuating quickly. I mean, they're leaving all kinds of things behind, medicines, things that they're used to having on a regular basis, they just don't have anymore. So, and then internationally, it always evolves. Again, day 1 looks very different than day 5, than day 10. So we always try and be adaptable and flexible. We got a great group of guys who have a passion to help.
Yeah. I mean, I remember, I think it was Hurricane Sandy. I live in the Northeast here in the U.S., and I think it was Hurricane Sandy. Just the way it worked out is I was without power for a week. And even here in the States, when you have access to so many things, and I wasn't flooded out like they were in that picture where you couldn't get around very easily. It wasn't quite that bad. We just didn't have power. And what a hassle that was for my life, like just to try to get basic things done that you just don't think about doing, right? And just, your fridge, like I couldn't keep the food cold, like just stuff like that. And I saw that in Brazil, they were saying food supplies, like how do you, food trucks aren't coming through and people aren't able to move things around easily. So now that's been going on for almost a week or more. And it's just, you can imagine just how difficult that is for people on a day-to-day basis right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And, in Texas, back here in the U.S., there's similar flooding. And just yesterday, some of our staff was actually out on an airboat with one of the local constables bringing boxes of food to houses that were otherwise unreachable by car. And so it's those kind of solutions where you have to have local partnerships or establish them when you get there, because those government officials can make all the difference between us being able to provide help and not provide help. And so we're looking for the same kind of relationships in Brazil. We're asking donors to stand with us so we can make sure that we're providing support there. But really and truly, these are truly disasters and they're life interrupting. And so we're just trying to give people a chance to kind of get back on their feet in the aftermath and then begin to look for opportunities to set them up for longer term success, in the coming days and weeks to follow.
All right. And again, if you want to give, that is go to ob.org. You can find the links to give there and you can help these efforts that Drew and his team are doing in all parts of the globe, here in the United States, of course, but in places like Brazil. Great efforts. And like he said, they're bringing the gospel and spiritual help along with them as well in the midst of these deadly storms. So Drew, appreciate all your guys' efforts and I appreciate you stopping by for a few minutes here to talk about it with us.
Awesome. Hey, thanks so much, Dan. Great to be
The Minnesota State women's golf team knew they'd have some tough competition in Oklahoma.
What they didn't anticipate is that they'd also be battling dangerous weather. The team was competing in the Division II regional tournament in Bartlesville, Oklahoma on Monday when a tornado rolled through the town. John Lordson shows us why the Maverick golfers are counting their blessings.
30-mile-an-hour winds, cold, rain, wet ground, not the same conditions that we had in the fall.
It's how Minnesota State senior captain Anna Seahawk describes the weather they've golfed in this spring. Little did she know, she and her Maverick teammates would face a whole new level of severe weather.
This was real. This was extreme. This was, this made it feel a lot more real.
After finishing their practice round on Monday, the golfers were in their hotel rooms in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, when all of a sudden they were told to go downstairs because a tornado was heading their way.
I was definitely very freaked out. One thing that made me feel more calm was that we're all in this together, basically.
Anna and her teammates waited out the tornado in a hotel conference room with about 5 other teams. They told jokes to try and lighten the mood.
So some of my teammates were freaking out. Some of them were pretty calm. And that was kind of the same with each team.
After about a half hour, the storm ended. And while the golfers were safe, some of their parents staying at a nearby Hampton Inn had to deal with damaged cars and other issues. The next day, the Mavericks were able to golf, but had to play around branches and other debris. Still, they considered themselves lucky.
We knew that, how extreme that tornado was. So I feel like to come out unharmed in any way was, it was a blessing.
John Lordson, WCCO News.
The tornado caused enough structural damage to the hotel parents were staying in that they had to evacuate in the middle of the night. About 40 homes were damaged in nearby Barnesdale, Oklahoma.
Parts of Texas underwater this morning.
Oh, that was floating.
After a weekend of deadly flooding ravaged the southeastern part of the state. New video shows rescuers near Dallas desperately searching the high waters for 4-year-old Lucas Warren, who was swept away by raging waters. Tragically, the child was later found dead. Police in Houston using jet skis to pull a man and 3 dogs out of up to 8 feet of water. It was among the more than 500 rescues and evacuations in the Houston area in a matter of days.
We personally did close to 100 water evacuations.
As the relentless rain submerged homes and sunk cars.
The banks are full, the creeks are full, and it's got nowhere else to go.
Kingwood residents Erica Gines and Frank Courier say they barely made it out in time.
We started looking at the water levels rising and we're like, yeah, we need to get out of here. And by the time we did, it was just coming too fast.
The couple saved by a high water vehicle, now returning home for the first time.
Oh my God. But it's just wild to see how much damage it does.
Yeah.
I think that's overwhelming.
As the skies clear, the road to recovery begins.
What does rebuilding look like?
For these people, it's very difficult. These people might not be back in their homes for a year or two.
and I put a yardstick in the water where we are here so that you can see it's reading at about 4 inches just on the edge of the road. But these folks aren't out of the flood threat just yet. They're still anticipating more major river flooding that could potentially cause this water to rise again. Savannah?
All right, Priscilla, thank you very much. Dylan's in for Al with more on these storms and where they're headed. Hey, Dylan.
Hey, good morning, guys. You know, we are going to lose one threat and gain another. In the Texas area, we are not going to see any rain, I'd say, for about 3 days. So each day, we'll start to see those rivers recede a little bit. So we will see some improvements from that standpoint. However, we do have a chance of very strong storms today, tomorrow, and Wednesday as well, especially down through Wichita, Oklahoma City, stretching down into parts of Texas. The biggest threat will be for golf ball to softball sized hail. That's up to 4 inches in diameter, where we could see just dangerous hail falling. Also long track tornadoes that could occur overnight. That's a very dangerous time. They're 2 times more deadly when those storms occur overnight. And we could also see wind gusts up to 80 miles per hour. In this area right through here, this could be increased to a high risk area where we could see some of those nighttime tornadoes causing a lot of damage. Then the risk tomorrow, it kind of weakens a bit. We're still looking for a good chance of large hail, wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour with a lesser chance of tornadoes. But then it all fires up again on Wednesday. And look at how many more cities it includes: St. Louis, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, where we could once again see hail over 2 inches or more in diameter. Strong tornadoes are possible Wednesday, too, and wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour. It is going to be very active the next several days, Savannah.
Okay, we will check back, Dylan.
Get out! Get out! Get out!
This threat is ongoing and it's going to get worse. It is not your typical river flood.
Of devastating weather in Texas, already battered by torrential rain, flooding, tornadoes, and huge hail. Samara Theodore is live for us in Conroe, Texas. Good morning to you, Samara.
Good morning, Janae. So Conroe, Texas sits about 40 minutes worth of a drive north of Houston, and this house sits along the San Jacinto River. The river has swollen so much that it has completely inundated the grounds of this family home. In fact, I'm standing in the driveway. You can see the saturated grounds have caused 2 large oak trees to fall, completely impeding access to this family reaching their home. And unfortunately, that could be the scene for many more Texans as we gear up for another round of severe weather and heavy rainfall through the weekend. This morning, Texans bracing for more severe weather after dangerous storms slammed the state. Tornadoes tearing through towns, leaving wreckage in their wake. Heavy rain flooding towns, closing roads and shutting down schools. With rivers rising, authorities enforced mandatory evacuations while coming to the aid of trapped citizens. First responders arriving in boats and pulling people to safety amid the rushing water.
You live back there?
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
I lost my home.
Outside Huntsville, a group of Good Samaritans banding together to rescue this man whose truck had gotten washed off a road. A helicopter arriving later to bring him to safety.
If you're in a low-lying area, go to safety. Do not wait till it's too late and then you endanger our first responders.
Get in! Get in the car!
While driving through the town of Hodges, storm chaser Freddie McKinney spotting the Lambert family, desperately running for safety.
I remember hearing glass break, and then I remember hearing bricks coming down, and they were coming down on top of us.
One touching down in Hawley, destroying homes and sending residents fleeing for their lives. Our Maria Villarreal witnessing the damage in Hawley firsthand, where families are trying to pick up the pieces.
The tornado that actually hit this area completely destroyed this home. There was a family of 5 inside when it actually hit. They hid in 2 closets. They are okay. They survived.
The storm's also bringing hail to parts of the Lone Star State. 2-inch hail reported in Scurry County. Now, you know, this rain that's getting ready to move in on Sunday comes on the heels of some epic totals. Take a look right now. So in the last couple of days, we've seen at least 23 inches of rain in Groveton, Texas. Huntsville, Texas saw around 21 inches of rain. Right now, we remain under flood watches and flood warnings throughout the greater Houston area. And while we have this break, the next round of wet weather is anticipated to move in overnight by 2 a.m. arriving. Heavy rainfall then batters this region through Sunday into Sunday evening. The more imminent threat, though, is actually this afternoon, a little bit farther west in San Angelo, Texas, where we're anticipating more strong thunderstorms. Take a look at this risk. This is level 3 out of 5. Highest tornado risk exists for Midland, San Angelo, down to Fort Stoughton, and we could see very large hail and damaging winds along with these storms. Gio?
It's that tornado threat we really have to watch. All right, Samara, thank you.
China was hit by severe weather and typhoons from several regions. A typhoon swept through the town of Jingfuzi in Tailing City, Liaoning Province, and typhoons struck in Fukin, Kaiwan and other places in Liaoning, and the scene was horrific. Tornadoes blocked the sun and it was a frightening sight.
太吓人了。过去。
The tornado destroyed the roofs of houses, in addition to uprooting trees and cutting off electricity in several areas.
龙卷风，附近偏安西部。龙卷风得有多大了吗？看看了吗？已经持续有10分钟了，这龙卷风，马上就过来了。哎呦我，看看，很大的龙卷风，太大了。哦。
Numerous video clips on social media showed the extent of the damage caused by the tornado. And how the cars were turning over in the air and moving due to the tornado and the strong winds.
这家给烧秃了，
这他妈从哪儿来的？太吓人了！哎呦！ 哎，瞅瞅瞅瞅，儿子，这第一次。
看这龙卷风，哎呦，又摆了。
The
跟那个咱那个2月投资房那个一样。
The typhoon injured 13 people, severely affected 60 families, and cancelled high-speed trains.
"在这高压群干嘛去了？
整点电呗。霞呀，你回家吧，咱那儿都不行了。
那回家了。看了吧，电线。
我的妈呀，龙卷风！
Residential buildings were damaged, large roadside trees were blown off and balconies and windows were broken.
我的妈呀！我的天呐，看到雷电了吗？你们？
Local authorities to the affected areas to provide disaster relief measures.
龙卷风啊！龙卷风。
又想滑的。
挂这点远。这家伙这风，他妈的！
Coverage tracking the rising floodwaters and those evacuations. Plus, the rain is not over yet. We've got a live look out over the Houston area right now. Take a look at the Med Center there. We are set to see some more showers over the next few days. And Chris Ramirez, the area is already underwater, could see some of the heaviest rain.
Yes, we are still tracking these torrential downpours north of the city of Houston, seeing those gray skies if you look over downtown. But right now I am tracking a strong storm that is moving through North Houston. This storm has a potential of pea-sized hail as well as 40-mile-an-hour winds that's moving just to the west of I-45. This is headed towards Dryersdale, even over Bush Airport. And also we're tracking the rain that just really has not let up all that much as for the past hour or two. Lots of lightning, lots of rain falling along I-45. And the unfortunate news is this is all upstream from the San Jacinto rivers and Trinity rivers. The National Weather Service keeps extending these flash flood warnings as this rain really not showing signs of letting up anytime soon. And right now we're seeing this until 1 p.m. But we are expecting this to continue as we head into the next few hours. Lots of rain, looking at those 24-hour rain totals, up to 3 to 5 inches of rain just upstream from Lake Houston. You can see Lake Houston right there, but other than that, seeing 4 to 5 inches of rain. All that water has to flow southward as we go into the next few hours. We're seeing more of those red dots. These are the live flood gauges, mostly north of Houston, starting to turn into red. Flooding already ongoing in these locations, and unfortunately, we're expecting this rain chance to last at least through the weekend. Sherman.
All right, thank you very much, Chris. And we want to remind you, areas that are under a mandatory evacuation order are the neighborhoods on your screen east of the East Fork of the San Jacinto River. Take a look at that. Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo saying she expects the water there to rise around midday. And right now, high water rescues continue along the East Fork of the San Jac River. That's in northeast Harris County. This after some people under a mandatory evacuation advisory finally decided to leave. Jason Miles is live along FM 1485 with what he's seeing there. Jason.
Hey there, Sherman. A very fluid situation right now, and I keep looking down because the water keeps creeping up. We're along FM 1485 just east of the East Fork of the San Jac River, and water has overtaken part of the roadway here very rapidly. We just had to move our news unit. This is Casey Ridge Package Store. About an hour and a half ago, that parking lot was still accessible, but the business had to close as the water kept coming up. Now take a look at some video we shot fairly recently of an active rescue in this very area. We saw crews from the Harris County Sheriff's Office as well as the Huffman Fire Department go into a neighborhood along Casey Road. That's a dead-end road just adjacent to the San Jac River. People under a mandatory evacuation decided to stick around to keep an eye on their properties and their pets and so forth, but they finally decided they needed to come out with help from these rescue crews. Take a listen to what one longtime resident had to say about those coming to help.
Oh, fantastic.
Okay, I'll make sure we got everything on your stuff, okay? That makes you want to cry, huh?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, my kids have been calling all day wanting to know where we're at, what we're doing, so.
Can say you're safe now.
Yes.
The next step is connecting with family members on higher ground, preferably. Mrs. Newhouse there suspects she and her husband will return, though, to their property they've owned outright for years, despite being so close to the river. County officials, meantime, report an additional 15 people were rescued overnight, along, of course, with many pets. We saw a number of dogs coming in on that boat as well. And back here live along 1485, I hope most of the folks along Casey Road have evacuated at this point. We're opposite of the San Jac River from neighborhoods known as Idlewild and Idle Glen, also very inundated at this hour. And we just heard and saw a transformer blow over there. The owner of this package store hoping to get in and turn off the power, but it's a very dangerous situation anytime you go into water when power is still going. Reporting live from Northeast Harris County, Jason Miles, KHOU 11 News.
All right, Jason, and you, the rest of the folks out there, take care, please. We'll check in with you later. As a result of this flooding, Harris County under a disaster declaration. Officials have shifted emergency activation now to the highest level. People who live along the San Jac are being told to brace for several more days of flooding. Stephanie Whitfield has updates from city and county leaders today. Stephanie, what are they saying?
The big message is they believe the flood wave is going to arrive during the midday hours for people who live along the San Jacinto River. So if your home has flooded before, now is the time to evacuate. The areas most impacted fall in parts of Harris County and the city of Houston. So we're hearing from spokespeople at both emergency operation centers today. They're expecting floodwaters to continue rising over the next 2 to 3 days. County Judge Lina Hidalgo is calling this a catastrophic event. Right now, you're going to hear from Judge Hidalgo first, then a spokesperson from the Houston Office of Emergency Management.
Right now, you may think, if you live in those neighborhoods, that things have leveled off and we're good to go, but this threat is ongoing and it's going to get worse. It is not your typical river flood. I know that folks who live along the river, they're river people, as we discussed when I was out there the other day. They see this happen all the time. This is not that. This is not what happened in January. This is much worse. It's a catastrophic event, and we all need to take the urgent and necessary steps to respond accordingly.
It's very important that people know now's the time to get out, because if you get out now, that's one less person that our first responders, our police and fire might have to rescue later.
Again, Judge Hidalgo is saying the flood wave will arrive midday today. She's urging everyone who lives within half a mile of the East Fork of the San Jacinto River to get out now. County officials are expecting about a couple hundred structures to flood, and they say by the end of the day, the only way to get out will be by boat. Stephanie Whitfield, KHOU 11 News.
All right, take warning. And parts of the River Plantation neighborhood in Montgomery County are closed due to high water. Officials there have been working around the clock, helping folks stuck in high water. KHOU 11's Jalissa Garza joining us live from that area with the latest. Jalissa.
Yeah, Sherman, that's right. Several roads are closed in this neighborhood, including this one, River Plantation Drive. You can only go so far because of the high water that officials don't want people driving through. Now, the rain has calmed down within the last 45 minutes. It just picked up and then once again calmed down a bit, but the high water is still a big concern. Montgomery County constables tell me on this street alone, they've made about 6 water rescues. Moments ago, we saw a 7th one, looked like a family there, but one family I spoke with who lives further down the road tells me they left last night because they were concerned, and when they came back today, they learned their home has 5 feet of water inside.
If you've never experienced flooding, water is so powerful and so fast. I mean, you can replace furniture and things, and we got our things that you can't replace. We got those out.
Now, that family has lived in their home for 3 years. They tell me that back in January there was some flooding, but it wasn't as bad as it is right now. Luckily, they were able to, as you heard, get important items out of the home, and now they're just waiting for the water to go down, but they're at a hotel, they tell me, off of 45, and they're safe. Their daughter's safe, their dogs are safe, and that is what matters most to them. Now, several agencies are out here working. We also saw the Texas game wardens along with different constables and fire departments all just working to help people out who are impacted. The constables tell me that they're going to continue going down this road to see if anyone else needs any help. Of course, we're going to continue keeping you updated on air and online. For now, live in Montgomery County, Jalissa Garza, KHOU 11 News.
All right, thank you, Jalissa. Good luck to the Reeps family and all the other families out there. Thank you. And breaking at noon, Crosby ISD telling us that a school bus was caught in high waters this morning. Just before 6:30 a.m., a school bus with 27 students on board stopped in floodwaters on Gulf Pump Road near Maple Street and the San Jacinto River. The district says that the driver had to stop because deeper floodwaters were ahead. The students exited through the rear door. They were taken to their campuses on an alternate bus. Once they arrived, they were given breakfast and dry clothes.
A vicious cycle of violent spring weather strikes again.
Large tornado right here.
Tonight in storm-battered Tennessee, one person is dead after authorities say a tree fell on a car north of Knoxville. And this warehouse evacuated after its roof caved in. In southern Michigan, fierce winds overnight ripping a massive chunk out of this FedEx facility, revealing multiple stories of fallen metal and wires. FedEx writing, "We are grateful there were no serious injuries." In all, Tuesday, close to 30 reported tornadoes tore across 8 states, making for more than 60 twisters this week. In Portage, Michigan, neighborhoods are shredded. Close to a dozen people hospitalized. This house flipped completely upside down with a couple in their 60s inside.
Your husband was
effectively buried alive.
Under this house, yeah.
And it was over an hour before they could get her out with just her arm sticking out.
Sisters Kathy and Ann say firefighters dug their cousin out unharmed. Her husband, who was thrown into the yard, suffered a broken neck. The family back today to save photos.
Is it hitting you right now?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been hitting us all morning.
All morning?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was scary. It was scary what they went through. I cry for them because it's trauma, what they went through. But with all the right support, they're going to be okay.
The same sort of devastation that's played out all week. Among the flashpoints, a deadly EF4 decimating parts of Oklahoma Monday. Meanwhile, Texas now at risk for more damaging winds and hail days after torrential floods ravaged the state. Amid our climate crisis, the behavior of these severe systems is shifting, with supercell storms that spawn twisters becoming stronger and so-called Tornado Alley trending east toward more populated areas in Mississippi, Tennessee, and the Ohio River Valley. Back in southern Michigan,
it feels like I'm at a funeral.
Dawn Nico's home is among the latest destroyed.
I cried all day yesterday. It's like the end times, all the destruction.
Maggie joining us now from Michigan. And Maggie, that FedEx facility behind you is certainly proof of the power of these storms, yet we understand there were no serious injuries.
Yeah, Lester, that's right. No serious injuries and no reported deaths. Michigan's governor saying today that in that respect, people feel very lucky, but adding, quote, the devastation is real. Lester.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
Перед белой конвой на пару смерч. Сила природы. It spins.
hopefully you found that visual break somewhat entertaining, and unlikely you found it enjoyable, but clearly we can see that there has been a series of high impact weather events cascading through regions of the United States a couple of weeks before the Keystone 6 national level exercise is about to commence, which is simulating a series of high impact events cascading through a region of the United States. Pretty much what is actually going on in real time, ahead of the game, natural weather events, if or not they are natural or unnatural, that is to be debated at another time. But the point of that little video interlude was to provide you with some mainstream relevant contemporary news regarding a series of high impact weather events that have been taking place within the last 24 to 48 hours, and a few of those from the last few days. So we are here at Google, where extreme weather has been typed in the search bar. I'm here at the news section, and there is a whole host of articles to choose from. But good news, folks, for those of you that are worrying, oh my God, RD's about to read endless articles again. I do hope there's another stream starting soon. Let's escape while we can. But for those of you who may be thinking that we're not going to be reading too many of these, because as you've just seen in those videos, there's an awful lot of storms throughout the United States and around the world. So the first one says Africa News, global weather crisis. And again, guys, if I was to include sort of global weather events in this stream would be twice as long, but we are concentrating on the United States of America primarily because of the Keystone 6 national level exercise, the Masscare strategy, mass casualty scenario that is taking place in a little over 2 weeks' time. But there is one from The Conversation 13 hours ago, supercharged thunderstorms. Have we underestimated how climate change drives extreme rain? Quite possibly, that says. This is an article I have clicked on and already read from 4 hours ago. Severe weather outbreak brings tornado wind threat, and that is from weather.com, the weather channel. Nebraska today, Armstrong helping strengthen impact of severe weather alerts. Mecklenburg County, and this is a government website, I believe. It's got gov in brackets there, so I'm guessing that is a local government site, and I have clicked on that. Extreme weather, power outages causing some county facility closures. The New York Times, southern states brace for more severe storms, SS, and possible tornadoes 3 hours ago. Again, this is the time of recording, it's probably yesterday by the time you actually watch this. But climate change and extreme weather impacts hit Asia hard. Again, global. Record heat waves and extreme weather grip Latin America, and that is from our good friends at the United Nations there. CNN, the Southeast is bracing for severe weather threat today as officials assess damage from recent storms, I guess. Fox Weather, Atlanta Metro under tornado watch as a severe weather threat shifts to the south, and that is again from 3 hours ago, so that probably is in effect. So let's go to the weather channel. So I've clicked on this one. It's quite a long one, guys, but it is relevant, particularly if you are living in the United States. But tornado central, severe weather outbreak packs tornado, wind, hail, floods, threats in the south and in the east. There is a video, we might come back to that before we exit this one, but at a glance, severe thunderstorms will continue to hit parts of the south and east throughout Friday. Isolated tornadoes, damaging straight-lined winds, and very large hail are all more concerns. Flash flooding from heavy rainfall is also a threat. Sign up for the morning brief email newsletter. But a multi-day outbreak of severe weather will finally come to an end on Friday across the south and east, and that should be today, as long as my editing and processing and uploading goes accordingly. But with the threat of some tornadoes bringing hail the size of golf balls or even larger, and destructive straight line winds, heavy rainfall might produce flash floodings in many of the same areas at risk. What they are tracking right now are scattered severe thunderstorms that are continuing in parts of the south, including storms that brought softball size hail to central Texas on a Thursday evening. 5-inch hailstones, and I measured in Johnson City, Texas. There's a tweet there, and there's a picture of that softball size hailstone. They would cause quite a high impact, I would imagine. Let's hope those softball sized what are they called, hailstones, don't continue to cause high impact damage as they cascade through an area of the United States. But there is a possibility that fast moving, long-lived complex of severe thunderstorms could produce a concentrated area of damaging winds across the southeast. Interesting words they used there. Some gusts could be over 75 miles an hour. What a potent gust indeed. And a few tornadoes and flash floodings are possible through the overnight hours. The latest radar, along with any watches and warnings are in effect, are in the map below. And there is the map. You can see there a few places are highlighted. And I'm guessing those orange coloured patches are the areas that are expected to be affected by severe weather storms and are bracing themselves for the worst. But radar watches and warnings. Friday severe weather forecasting end, and that should be today at time of viewing, tomorrow at time of recording. The chance of severe storms will decrease, but isolated severe weather and locally heavy rain might affect parts of the southeast towards the end of the week, and especially across North Florida and southern Georgia. There is a map of southern Georgia and North Florida recapping the outbreaks so far. The latest multi-day barrage of severe weather fired up in the plains, the Midwest and the Mid-South on Monday, and then it spread its greatest impacts, high impact events, folks, into the Great Lakes and into the Ohio Valley on Tuesday, cascading through an area of the United States before it continued into the Midwest and into the South on Wednesday. In a total, there have been over 1,000 reports of severe weather from this outbreak since Monday, and that includes large hail, severe wind, wind damage, and tornado reports as shown in the map below. There have been at least 81 tornadoes confirmed by the National Weather Service or cited by spotters, including an EF4 that hit Barnsdall. You couldn't hit Barnsdall with a Force 4 hurricane in Oklahoma. And that took place on Monday night, a destructive EF2 tornado in Portage, Michigan. And on Tuesday evening, and a damaging tornado that hit Columbia, Tennessee late on Wednesday. There are a map in all those red dots. There are damage areas, I guess, as a result of some of those very forceful tornadoes. Here's how to prepare and stay safe. Buy a NOAA weather radio. If you can find these at most electronic retailers, they are a feature warning. They feature warning alarms that can be set to sound loudly when the National Weather Service or tornado or severe thunderstorms watch or warning is issued. Your smartphone can also alert you. Most smartphones are capable capable of receiving the wireless emergency alerts from your local NWS office. And these include tornado warnings. So as long as you've got a radio or a smartphone, and no need to sort of stock up on water or flashlights, batteries, candles, warm clothing, dry clothing, stuff like that. Just get yourself an app on your phone, or buy a radio, a weather app, radio to be precise. But you will have to seek shelter. If your home is no basement, go to the lowest floor. This is in the case of an hurricane, not in flooding. Don't go to the lowest room in the house. If it's flooding, go to the highest one. Do the exact opposite of if it's a hurricane, I guess. But let me just scroll down. As I said, I've been reading that long enough. Spring showers, SS folks. And scroll slowly back up so you can read some of those prepping advice there, but nowhere to go, have a plan in place. There's some additional tips they give there, but most priorities they did seem to concentrate on were for devices. But extreme weather, this is a government website here, where is it? Mecklenburg County news release. It is an update. Weather of extreme weather and warnings of power outages in Valerie County. Woodard Center remains closed, and this was dated Thursday, May the 9th, 2024. Yesterday, folks, or today at time of recording. I don't know why I keep doing that, but currently only Valerie C. Woodward Center remains closed. All other facilities listed below are now open. Customers looking to access services offered at the VCW community resources are encouraged to visit the LB Scarborough Community Center, and that's where it's located. But this is a little bit shit. I thought we'd have a little bit more involved in it, as it was a government. Don't know why I clicked on it again. I already looked at this, but there we go. We stroked through to the bottom there. I guess it was because it was solely a government website. I do like to include stuff from the horse's mouth, so to speak. But Central District AOB 1203. Allegheny. The duration of the closure will be dependent on Duke Energy restoration time. Employees who work at these facilities and have remote work capabilities should plan to telework. So not much there, but there was an article on page 2 I wanted to read from 5 hours ago from Fox News, but let's just scan to the bottom of this and read some of the headlines. Time magazine: storms pummel the south as a week of deadly weather continues. High impact events cascading through an area of the United States skies. Sound familiar? It should sound familiar. That is what Keystone 6 national level exercise scenario will be. A series of cascading high impact events through a region of the United States. There's something about Brazil floods, extreme weather in the Arclactics newsjournal.com. Arclactative. WMO says extreme heat and hurricanes will cause droughts that will ravage the Caribbean. Hope not, I'm in the Caribbean. But the close to 60 million are at risk of severe weather in southern USA on Thursday. That is today at time of recording. That article come out 15 hours ago. That will probably be very similar to the weather one that we read just there. UK farmers consider quitting after extreme wet weather and low profits. Maybe there's a hidden agenda highlighted in that article there. Widespread parts of Asia and Africa are under extreme weather. Southeast is lashed by more severe weather as deadly storms and tornadoes hit the United States. There is from CNN, Washington Post. Days of destructive storms continue with widespread severe weather across the United States. Washington Post. Let's just click on that one quickly. Is it a long one? I believe it is. The risk of severe thunderstorms, some capable of triggering tornadoes, will reach across much of the southern United States as they cascade through a region of the United States, causing high impact events and disasters along the way, damage and stuff that will, of course, require some assistance from our fine friends at FEMA. Thunderstorms may not be as ferocious as many that erupted in the Midwest and the Great Plains earlier in the week, but there is a likelihood that some of the strongest storms will be capable of producing a few tornadoes. But approximately 60 million people live within the anticipated zone of severe weather throughout Thursday night. So let's hope overnight, by the time you're watching this, there is no reports of major disaster and casualties. But the tally of filtered severe weather incidents as reported by the Storm Prediction Center from Monday through to Thursday afternoon had reached 1,078, of which there were 95 reports of tornadoes. There were at least 454 incidents of severe weather on Wednesday alone, making it the biggest day for severe weather of the entire outbreak. All it takes is one brief tornado to strike a populated area, which leads to great risks to lives and property. And like most prior days this week, there is the potential for multiple tornadoes to occur. With each passing day, the storms have pushed into progressively more densely populated areas. So they sort of started in rural areas, and now those sneaky storms are creeping up on populated areas. So be warned, folks, if you are in the southern east or wherever these storms may be cascading through, causing high impact disaster events, you might want to get out of Dodge while you can. But the main threats from the thunderstorms in the east will be high winds and hail. Senior meteorologist Adam Doughty said a wedge of cool air will protect areas from Boston to New York City, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh from severe weather. So lucky if you're in those parts of the area, a cold front will deter those hurricanes descending your way, or ascending, depending on things. So let's just roll down to the bottom again, guys. Don't want to read too much about this, but there is one cluster of thunderstorms left over from storms that rocked the Tennessee Valley on Wednesday. Will push from southern order Georgia into northeastern Florida. We heard that. As I said, guys, I do like to get to the bottom of these websites and articles, and you can, at your leisure, stop and read it if you do want to. But look at this. Central Florida theme parks should be alert to rapidly changing weather conditions during the afternoon and evening. Further to the north, a potent storm system will race southeastward from Canada into the Great Lakes region on Friday and then swing into the northeast this weekend. So cascading through areas of the United States, folks. Don't know what else to tell you. Are we nearly at the bottom? Yes, we are. Mother's Day weekend. Happy Mother's Day weekend to all your mothers out there. Want next level safety, ad-free, unlock advanced hyper-local services. Product placement there, and that is that article. But what was the one I wanted to read? This one from Fox. Powerful squall lines could rip across the south with 85 plus miles per hour winds. Apologies, we didn't watch the video in that previous article that we said we would, and there is another article, a video contained within this article. If I remember, we will click on it before we exit this article and conclude a little look at some recent news articles related to the extreme weather outbreak that is cascading throughout the United States and seemingly changing directions. And be warned, it is creeping up and descending on densely populated areas. But this article starts out by saying that Dallas, the deadly multi-day severe weather outbreak impacting the central US just won't quit as millions of people across the South brace for more extreme weather. Clusters of dangerous thunderstorms have developed and are expected to continue popping up throughout the night from Texas to the Carolinas. Strong thunderstorms caused some travel headaches on Thursday morning when the Federal Aviation Administration implemented 2 ground stops at Hartsfield-Jackson, Atlanta International Airport due to severe weather in the area. How to watch Fox News weather. Click on that hyperlink. Tornado severe storms leave 3 dead in Tennessee, so there is already a body count, folks. 3 dead in Tennessee as North Carolina is devastated as devastating damage. Trail stretches 900 miles. Cascading, guys, cascading high impact events, just like Keystone 6. Don't know why I'm the only one that seemingly is warning folks of the Keystone 6 national level exercise. Maybe I might be warning you all a little too late, although I did first bring this to your attention close to 3 weeks ago now. But it looks to me, guys, as though Keystone 6 is already active, judging by these high impact storms and hurricanes, tornadoes, hail the size of softball that are already cascading through a widespread region of the United States, stretching 900 miles so far, as we have heard, and is being warned will continue into the weekend. But a line of thunderstorms, back to the article, is expected to form in East Texas and sweep across the south through Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and even into Georgia. The SPC says the winds could gust between 60 and 85 miles per hour in the strongest of the storms. Cities such as Mobile in Alabama, Tallahassee in Florida, Savannah in Georgia, and Charleston in South Carolina are included in the heightened risk zone. So be warned if you're in those cities, folks, or close proximity to them, for strong to severe storms on Friday. But beyond Friday, the frontal boundary is expected to push offshore, which will allow the region to be thunderstorm free over the weekend. And that thus concludes that little article from Fox. But let's click on the video, and I'm not going to stop and switch from mic to system sounds, so it might sound a little bit tinny, folks, but let's just do it while we're here. If it lets us play at all. Sometime today it'd be nice. Geographic restriction. So unfortunately, after hyping that up, geographical restrictions are preventing us to watch that video from Fox Weather. But now, guys, with that little mainstream review of some of those extreme weather events and that little video interlude, let's get back to Keystone 6 and our fine friends at FEMA, and then we will wrap this up and cue and line up our dancing girl and commence with the outro pleasantries in the not so distant future. So stay with it, folks. We are almost over, and we will, as I said, be wrapping it up with our fine friends at FEMA and a little looky look at some Keystone related stuff. And I've yet to realize this stream is not contained a PDF so far, so maybe go search for a PDF to provide the obligatory government issued PDF as part of Shit Video Productions service and commitment to provide the most informative, entertaining content as it possibly can.
Explain a little more about the significance of the high-risk area by the Storm Prediction Center. There hasn't been a high risk in this area for 5 years, and it means that numerous intense and long-lived tornadoes are possible. Yes, this area is familiar with supercells, but what's possible is a QLCS, and that stands for Quasi-Linear Convective System, also known as a squall line, but to simplify, a family of storms moving together as one line, and this can happen quickly and cause a lot of damage over a wide area. Remember, guys, it doesn't have to be a tornado to be impactful, but it's certainly one of the things we're worried about. And it's even more concerning whenever these threats could happen when people are sleeping. So please make sure your friends and family have a way to stay alerted, have a plan in place for sheltering, and a meetup spot for later in case the power goes out.
So here we find ourselves at 919SOW.AFRC.AF.mil.gov. It's a military government website, folks. The 919th Special Operations Wing. And there are a few photographs there of a guy in a hat. some trucks and some cones. Remember the cones on the Baltimore Bridge that didn't fall down when the rest of the bridge did? And some guys measuring boxes by the looks of things. As one of the photos, and there we are back to the first one, a guy with a hat talking to a lady with a clipboard in front of a couple of trucks. But FEMA personnel lead a logistics exercise, including emergency. And here it says below that, Air Force, FEMA, and the DLA collaborate in an exercise, Eagle Rising 3.0. And any guesses, guys, watching viewers, is your chance to participate. Can you guess what this exercise, Eagle Rising 3.0 was all about? Excuse me, I've just kicked a chair there. I will give you a second to answer in the live chat. And if you answered hurricane, you were correct. But this article was published on April the 17th, 2024. And when I originally did start the FEMA Files series of streams, 5 nights at FEMA, that was a failed endeavor, although not necessarily, because we can continue and complete that series of videos, just not in the 5 nights that was initially anticipated. But when I was anticipating to bring you 5 nights of FEMA, this article from April the 17th would have actually been far more contemporary than it is now. May the 11th at time of recording. Actually, isn't May the 11th, or is it? I don't know. It's May anyway. So this was about 2.5 weeks ago. But this is an article from Senior Airman Cameron Bugman, and he is the 301st Fighter Wing, but Homestead Air Reserve based Florida. As remember, guys, we are warning that series of storms is going to make its way into northern Florida. But 3 weeks ago, FEMA and the 919 Special Operations Wing were conducting exercise Eagle Eye, and it was an exercise as hurricane approaches. Reservists and Air Force Emergency Management personnel partnered with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, our fine friends FEMA, and the Defense Logistics Agency, the DLA, to enhance natural disaster preparedness efforts in exercise Eagle Rising. It wasn't Eagle Eye, my apologize. Eagle Rising 3.0. And this took place at Homestead Air Reserve Base, Florida, on April the 8th, right through to April the 12th, 2024. So just over a month ago, guys, or just under a month ago. But the exercise was aimed to establish a national incident support base, and NISB, to serve as a staging location for hurricane relief just before a series of hurricanes began to cascade throughout a region of the United States of America just this week. 2 weeks after this Eagle Rising 3.0 took place, an exercise for hurricane relief and staging a location, pre-positions necessities such as food, water, cots, and generators before a hurricane arrives, to ensure quick humanitarian response after the storm. And the exercise served as a great opportunity for Air Force emergency managers to gain experience and knowledge about civilian disaster preparedness operations the 482nd Fighter Wing Emergency Management, the 301st Civil Engineer Squadron, the 319th Training Squadron gained valuable information about logistical operations of staging and how different government entities can work together to ensure the success of hurricane relief efforts. Now, also, guys, do remember, I hope you do, it wasn't that long ago, we looked at that list of FEMA contracts obtained for the financial year of 2024, and some of those contracts included air support for evacuation and hospital runs, but here we are. I'm sure it's just a coincidence that FEMA were working alongside the 919 Special Operations Wing, conducting Eagle Rising 3.0 exercise, a hurricane preparedness drill where they put in place a staging location with all you could need and put in place in the eventuality that a hurricane would cause a high impact on an area. And thank goodness they did, because look at that, guys, we've had a week of high impact hurricanes and tornadoes cascading through a region of the United States. But the article continues with a quote from Colonel Scott Nichols, who is Florida's Emergency Preparedness Liaison Officer, an EPLO, and he serves as the intermediary between FEMA and the Air Force, the middleman, if you like. And he installations in Florida, that's where he acts as the intermediate middleman. But he goes on to say that the exercise provides insight for FEMA and the Air Force on limiting factors for hosting a staging area at Homestead ARB. And Nichols said the exercise helps us understand the challenges and bottlenecks for moving a large quantity of personnel, equipment, and other resources into location. FEMA conducts annual training exercises to help ensure proficiency in preparedness operations, but this is the first time that Homestead ARB served as the host for the exercise. FEMA wanted to explore the opportunities that the reserve base provided for a staging location, and maybe that was some wonderful foresight on FEMA's behalf, because we are about to get, and probably at time of viewing, might even be experiencing hurricanes, tornadoes, high impact weather events in northern Florida as we watch. But the article says, with a quote, "We assist people when people are having the worst days of their lives." And that was from Sheila Thomas, a current operations branch chief for FEMA staging events, folks. This exercise is also allowed FEMA personnel to gain relevant training in logistical operations while learning how to integrate with other federal, state, and local teams. The Eagle Rising exercise is most important to make sure when called upon the whole of the government can provide resources where needed in a time of crisis. And that was from David Epstein. I wonder if he's any relation. And he is a pilot or a member of the 482nd Fighter Wing Emergency Management Director. Or is he? Or did the Emergency Management Director said that this is the first exercise held at the HARB that allows all of us to practice and make sure when called on we can all be ready. Air Force EM personnel also gained important interagency insight through the experience, and the exercise helped inform what FEMA's capabilities are and how the Air Force can help support FEMA during a major disaster like a hurricane, said Staff Sergeant Teddy Warren, and he is also of the 309th Training Group, and he is an emergency management journeyman. And Colonel Craig Simmons of the 482nd Fighter Wing, he's a deputy commander, provided welcome remarks to kick off the exercise. The exercise this week has been instrumental for our team to understand the emergency management and FEMA missions. Simmons said this interagency collaboration helps us work together more effectively effectively to provide support for the base and the local community before and after a national disaster. And that thus concludes that operation. But what was it that stood out to me there? The remarks that kicked off the week. This exercise has been instrumental for our team to understand the emergency management and FEMA missions. Maybe the understanding of those FEMA missions is to understand the part that the military will play in those missions. And it wasn't very long ago, guys, and we contained this information in FEMA files, that the entire military was handed over to FEMA to use as at their disposal when a natural disaster occurs. And at the moment, natural disasters are occurring as we lead up to the national level exercise Keystone 6, which is a scenario for a series of high impact events cascading through a region of the United States, which just this week we've seen in real life a series of high impact weather related events cascading through a region of the United States. So we're going to have a little look at a couple of recent exercises from the last couple of weeks that do have some FEMA involvement before wrapping it up with one last article regarding a Keystone 6 to bring this presentation full circle. So almost done, guys. Stay on target, turn off your targeting computers, and trust your feelings to guide you to the end of this stream. Now we find ourselves at AbileneReporterNews.com to read a report regarding a regional airport emergency response exercise. And this was published 7:43 May the 8th, 2024, and was updated at 7:46 p.m. May the 8th, 2024. Now, there are a lot of pictures, although it is a sort of slightly long article. The words are pretty big, so that sort of overcompensates the length of it. And there is the first picture of some volunteer victims, or crisis actors if you wish to call them of another name, standing around a tanker that is emitting some white mist. And the article starts out by saying volunteer victims chose whether they wanted to position themselves for first responders to discover them during the emergency exercise at Abilene Regional Airport on Wednesday, May the 8th, 2024, and a big gap there. And there's a picture of someone applying makeup to make it look as realistic as possible. And Kevin Gehrig, an exercise and melange specialist, applies fruit jam with a butter knife to a simulated wound on Andre Gwynn Sr.'s leg Wednesday, May the 8th, 2024. Gwynn was one of the victims in an emergency exercise held at the airport. There is a picture of individuals in a smoky environment, and the article reads, volunteers step into a smoke-filled fuselage used for the training during the emergency exercise at the airport. Help, help, somebody help, for the love of God, help, help, there's a disaster victim on the runway, help, help, is what I imagine the guy in the blue shirt is saying, and the guy laying on the tarmac is probably not saying much at all if he is injured, although he doesn't look that injured. I'm guessing he's like, it hurts, the pain, just leave me, save yourself, Billy. And the guy in the purple's, I'm not leaving you, we've been through too much to leave you to die on the tarmac. Sorry, a little bit sidetracked there, maybe some slight comedic relief for you there, but an airport regional fire truck approaches the training area during Wednesday's emergency exercise, and there's a jovial looking chap with a braided beard living out. I'm pretty sure he listens to the Grateful Dead. If not, it's the only thing he listens to, and he's got a daisy in his do-rag. I don't really like it when white guys try to do-rag it up. But a flower plucked from a grassy area surrounding the Abilene Regional Airport, forgive me if I'm reading that place, flutters above Joseph Blackbear's brow. Seriously, Joseph Blackbear? Something's got to be going on with Joseph Blackbear's brow anagram generator. If we had more time, it would probably be something we would put Joseph's Blackbear's brow into to see what comes out. But he plucked the flower during a break in an emergency exercise on, of course, Wednesday the 8th at the airport we know all about. And here's another picture of people in a fuselage. Is that a victim on the floor? Help! I'm a victim in the fuselage. Please assist me by ticking boxes on a clipboard. Man in a high vision vest. And the man in the high vision vest is saying, do you happen to have your social security number before we can proceed with the commencement of treatment? But the volunteer victim, Jess Akins, lies on the floor of the airplane fuselage as paramedics find her there during the emergency exercise. And here is another picture. Help me! Help me! The fuel is leaking from a leaking fuselage. It's about to ignite. If you don't drag me to safety, I'm gonna die and burn to death with my intestines spilling upon the runway, is what I imagine the guy in the blue t-shirt is saying to the high-vis paramedic. And he's like, don't you worry, son. Let me administer some morphine. You won't feel a thing. And that is Jerry Thayer, who is laying on the tarmac at the Abilene Regional Airport as a paramedic checks him during an emergency exercise. So he told you there's not really much to pay attention to word-wise in this, and there is, please just get me to safety. I'm so glad it's over. I'm so glad it's over. At least I've got my backpack, and you're carrying me in a makeshift hammock stretcher, but my bandana is intact. And that is Jack Ryan, who is relaxing as first responders carry him towards an ambulance again at the airport during that exercise on Wednesday, the 8th of May. She got a stump. Can't see. Are they using a real life amputee? And that's Kylie Barber, I guess, there, who is answering questions from a paramedic in the triage area. And again, guys, it took place at Wednesday's emergency exercise. And the guy in the blue purple t-shirt is, it hurts when I pee. The white mist entered my penis, and now I can't get an erection, but it burns, the burning sensation. She's saying his penis really burns. Ever since he was exposed to the white mist that leaked from the fuselage, he hasn't been able to get an erection. And the guy's ticking some boxes there, thinking, how you doing, Kaylee? And guess where that took place? And if you guessed it took place at the Abilene Regional Airport on Wednesday, May the 8th, 2024, you were correct. This is an interesting looking one. Look at this. Oh, my arm, it really hurts. Can you give me some treatment? Is what the guy in the foreground is saying to the paramedic and the person in the background. I don't really know what happened. 1 minute I was walking along the tarmac, and the next I was lying here. And then, don't worry, we'll get you some first aid, is what that individual in the high-vis is saying. And the third person is, why is nobody attending to me? Is it because I don't have any health insurance? Excuse that cough, the voice work. Pulled my vocal cords slightly there, but paramedics tending to victims, and here's an ambulance and a whole bunch of people, and that looks like Kaylee again sat on the floor from a different angle, and there's a person sort of I don't know if he's a responder or a victim, but he doesn't look as though he's that injured. But let's just pretend I've twisted my leg. I was off to a Super Mario cosplay party and fell over. And when the plane crashed in amid a white mist. And there are some first responders. None of these people have health insurance, so let's just leave them and move on to those that have. And Kate is saying, but what about my boyfriend? His penis is burning from the mist. and they recline in wait as they wait for an ambulance during a triage. And there's Jerry Taylor being carried in a similar fashion to the gentleman we saw earlier being carried in a similar fashion, and he's getting carried off to ambulance. Look at that one. That is a sort of a picture you would definitely see on the mainstream media or in the newspaper after a sort of staged event that was a false flag event that was passed off as a real time event. Oh, look at this first responder helping a victim, and there is a paramedic assists the victim during the drill. And that is the last picture at that Albine exercise. But let's just click out of here, folks, and you can see emergency exercise has been typed in the search bar at Google. And what was interesting about that one is it was a second article related to that emergency exercise for passenger safety at Albine Airport on Wednesday, May the 8th. And those articles are from in the last 17 and 13 hours at time of recording. But there was also a drill at Bangor International Airport. And there's a video for this. Let's watch the video before we go reading another.
We told you last night about an emergency drill taking place today at Bangor International Airport while the runway is undergoing repairs. Photojournalist Mark Redeker and reporter Sierra Whaley got a closer look.
Here at the Bangor International Airport, local officials are collaborating for the full-scale emergency exercise. And luckily, we got to get a sneak peek at all of the action. Let's go. A full-scale exercise is one of 4 federal requirements to ensure the airport complies with federal regulations.
This is an opportunity for us to test our emergency response to a aircraft emergency, and so we worked with our local partners, emergency responders, to simulate a scenario and go through the different motions that we would go in a real life emergency.
The test scenario involved 2 aircrafts that collided with each other, triggering a fire. It was an informative scenario for Northern Light health officials in attendance, especially since they recently teamed up with the Red Cross. They tested their response to patients on the plane who were perhaps unresponsive.
Concentrating a lot on communication, both at the hospitals as well as here at the airport. And this is a great opportunity for us to test community preparedness and identify any opportunities for improvement.
The Director of Emergency Management for Penobscot County agrees. He says given that anything can happen at any time, it's good for experienced and new officials to know who to call in an emergency situation.
That trust and those partnerships, I think, goes a long way, and especially when we're doing it in a no-stress type of environment. You know, there's a lot of questions that can be asked, you know, a lot of side conversations, a lot of great networking and things of that nature.
We are dedicated to the community, so this type of thing is fun. We're learning and improving our processes in a really fun way, but at the time it's very serious because we know that there may be a day that we have to actually do this thing.
So fun but serious at that emergency exercise drill at Bangor Airport while the runway is being repaired, and I'm sure you noticed a few government agencies getting their badge in the shot. So we're not going to read this, guys, because it pretty much will tell you what we heard in that video, but I do like to scroll down to the bottom just for the sake of it and for obsessive compulsive tendencies, and the purpose being so that if you do choose to do so, you can stop and start the screen at your leisure and read it yourselves, although I highly doubt any of you actually do that. But feel free rather, not peel me free, feel free rather to prove me wrong. Learn to speak, RD, if you're going to say witty things, but feel free to prove me wrong by letting me know that you do actually come back and stop and start and read those articles that I do obsessively, compulsively scroll to the bottom of the screen. So there is something there from the City of St. John News Brunswick. I have clicked on this about an emergency alert that is going to go on, but scrolling down there's another mention of that one we just watched a video of at Bangor Airport. So within the last few days, guys, there's been a series of airport emergency exercises involving aircraft. Don't need to tell you why that might be of concern, but if the penny isn't dropping and you haven't quite worked that one out, 9/11, folks. But this is unfortunate because first responders met all objectives. Oh no, that's the wrong one. Further down, we'll come back to that one in a second. But this was the one that Pueblo Chieftain, large emergency incident response near Pueblo Airport, is only a drill, but unfortunately we are blocked by a paywall, so we can't read that one. But there is another example of an emergency exercise that took place at an airport, and at the time of recording that was released 18 hours ago. So 3 different airport related emergency exercises, and there's another one there in Canada. The Salvation Army in Canada Emergency Disaster Services exercise in Winnipeg Prairies and the Northern Territories. Let's quickly click on that one. Emergency Disaster Services exercise in Winnipeg. Last week, the city of Winnipeg, along with the Red Cross, Shared Health, St. John Ambulance, the Salvation Army, and other organisations participated in the city's first clean air exercise. That sounds bizarre. Air aware, be aware, the air is going to kill you. But the simulation gauged how prepared the city is in the case of an air quality emergency. Interesting stuff, folks. 2023 was Canada's worst wildfire season on record, and many organisations, including the Salian and the Emergency Disaster Service, are bracing themselves for another severe season due to an abnormally dry winter as wildfires and winds bring smoke from fires throughout western provinces, and persons susceptible to air quality hazards, including heart conditions, lung conditions, and asthma, may need specialised care. Given the dryness of the conditions through the winter, a lot of areas across Western Canada, as we are hearing from our hazard experts, there is potential for a busy wildfire season, says Winnipeg's Emergency Management Coordinator Mike Olschik. There's really no such thing as a response season anymore. It just keeps rolling into one another, says Sean Freely, Canadian Red Cross Vice President. The exercise was set up at Sergeant Tommy Prince Place, a recreation centre in northwest Winnipeg that could be used in the event of an actual air quality emergency. Air alert. I haven't heard air alert until this article, so I'm glad we did click on it. But 3 waves of 100 volunteers came through the doors, and each was given a scenario to act out to test how well the participating organisations could address the issues and support those needing care. Volunteers were given background information on health conditions and other factors that determined how the staff should respond. There was a few pictures of that, and the exercise featured a first aid station run by Shared Health, a multicultural and quiet room for participants who required language services, and there was a meal area also. So there is the opportunity to watch a video of that emergency drill, but we're not going to watch it. But this was the one I wanted to come back to, because this also took place, the article was released on May the 8th, but the incident took place back in April, and it is about white mist being emitted. And there's a couple of individuals there at the site of this emergency exercise. There is an overhead of some fire trucks and first responders there, and I think in the distance there is the 2 vehicles that collided to cause the accident that emitted white mist rather. But personnel in hazmat suits approached the Perry County transit vehicle, and in Cooksville on April the 27th, so just over a couple of weeks ago, a Perry County full-scale emergency response exercise was held in Crooksville. It started at 8:30 a.m. and lasted until 10:30, and this training exercise involved a tanker truck carrying anhydrous ammonia having a collision with a Perry County transit passenger bus. This collision caused a white mist to start leaking from the truck, causing people's eyes to burn. My eyes, they burn. The goggles, they do nothing. But county personnel were evaluated on 8 different objectives and passed all 8. Perry County Emergency Management Agencies carries out these training exercises to give forest responders and supporting agencies the chance to increase their training along with awareness. The fire and EMS agencies that were involved in coming to the scene, assessing as well as getting control of the incident successfully, were New Lexington Fire Department, New Straitsville Fire Department, and Crooksville Fire Department, Monday Creek Fire Department. A whole bunch of fire departments were involved in this, but the EMA sends out a huge thanks to Randy Moore of Randy Moore Petroleum, who provided the tanker truck as a prop in the exercise. Thanks for that. A bit of product placement now, and a shout now also goes to the Perry County 911 Center for that awesome job of dispatching during this incident. The law enforcement agencies, it's a little bit like the Oscar Award, and I like to thank the law enforcement agencies that participated by helping with traffic control and keeping the scene safe. Other supporting actors that helped make this training exercise possible were the Perry County Health Department, Perry County Emergency Department and Disaster Demons. That's a very interesting name, the Department in Disaster Demons. We're going to have to look up the Disaster Demons at some point if I remember to do so. So much to look up, guys. So many tabs open up. It's never ending. But let's get to the bottom of this. I'm just going to stroll to the end and quit reading. We've read an awful lot there. But it was a couple of photographs in the white mist that was emitted, although those exercises that we did just read about here at the Google News section for results prompted by typing emergency exercise in the search bar. We've seen 3 different airport related emergency exercises in 3 different places. An emergency exercise for white mist being emitted from a tanker, some ammonia or whatever it was simulated there, and up in Canada, air alert exercises. So that concludes our little look at our fine friends at FEMA and some recent emergency exercises that are being carried out and taking place as we do lead ever so much closer to the Keystone 6 disaster scenario national level exercise featuring high impact events cascading through a region of the United States of America, and that is where we are heading now to conclude this with a final article about Keystone 6 and that upcoming national level exercise. Here we are, as promised, at our final article of the day, and we are at the Pennsylvania Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster.org. It is a government website, guys, and I do realize we haven't included a government issued PDF in this stream. Maybe I will compensate by giving you 2 in the next one, but we have had a whole host and almost are overdosing on the government issued PDF with the FEMA files streams, and in particular also the migrant solutions. But we are here at POVAD, the Pennsylvania Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster. I don't know exactly how to pronounce the acronym, to look at the Keystone 6 National Masscare exercise that is called Keystone 6, and it will be held in Shippensburg, Pennsylvania on May 21st to 23rd, 2024. As a reminder, the scenario will involve large-scale impacts cascading across the region, and it will need for mass care services for up to 100,000 plus people. Pennsylvania will be standing up a Commonwealth-managed shelter on May the 20th, so a couple of days before that starts, or the day before that starts. And remember, there is a pre-event that starts on the 18th and runs through the 18th and 19th, the weekend before the national level exercise. Keystone 6 starts. In the day before it starts, it looks as though they are going to be setting up a shelter there in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and they will also be activating operational stroke planning Masscare task forces for feeding, sheltering, disability integration, reunification, household pets, housing, and distribution of emergency supplies, primary exercises, play, focuses on emergency support function 6, in brackets there, Masscare stroke emergency assistance functional areas. And learn more. POVAD, POVOD, I don't know how to say it. Members are invited to participate on Thursday, May the 23rd for the following activities. Spring membership between 9:11 a.m., distribution of emergency supplies, task force 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., disaster case management working group 11 to 5, continental breakfast and lunch will be provided, and if you will be in the area on Wednesday evening, please feel welcome to attend our fun and festive dinner event. If you have questions regarding the extent of your participation on other task forces, please reach out to Christine Hazer at chazer@pa.gov, or you can call 717-461-0389. That number again, 717-461-0389. To attend, and if you are in Pennsylvania and feel like attending, you can do so by registering using this form, and there is a hyperlink to click on there for Keystone 6 National Masscare Exercise Registration. Please do not disseminate the link below. Beyond POVAD members, stroke prospective members, you can sign up for exercise updates on our website. We hope to see you there. And it's from Christine. And Christine is the Masscare coordinator. She is a member of the Department of Human Services, the Division of Emergency Planning and Response at 1310 Elmerton Avenue, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, 17110. And there is a cell phone number again, 717-461-0389. Not doxing her, it's on the website, so you can click on them to see about who they are, about this, how to help, and how, more importantly, to donate. Pennsylvania voluntary organizations acting in disaster. There's some more stuff there, and we do get to the bottom of that, but I do want to show you guys a little something before we do wrap this up. Look what I've typed into the search bar here at Google. DHS, oh no I haven't, I've typed Keystone 6 DHS emergency exercise, and we've seen pretty much everything so far that is highlighted in purple. But interesting stuff. Have we seen that? We may have. There is a government PDF. It is 6 pages long, but look what comes up as the second image found in the search results, courtesy of good old Google. And if you are seeing it, guys, and are paying attention, on the top right hand side of your screen in those pictures, look, Nowrd Keystone 6 Masscare Exercise YouTube video link. I'm showing up in search results on Google, folks. My content is being exposed, and it is alongside the Keystone 6 Masscare logo right there on the left-hand side. Let's click on this, just because it is I have already downloaded it and clicked on it, but this is the FEMA, let's cancel, FEMA Incident Management and Support Keystone. But if we just look at the first page, then I have included a government PDF in this presentation. And look there, FEMA Incident Management and Support Keystone, and this is from January 2011. Let me just click on mobile view to make it a little bit easier to navigate. Support Keystone, January 2011, far too small to read. Introduction, purpose, foundational documents and authorities, background, national response framework, doctrine, engaged partnership, response, scalable, 60 pages. Let's go to the end. I'm not going to read any of it, but if we get through, oh God, we're only on 11. Again, you can stop and start if you so choose. But there you go, look at that, bonus content. There is a PDF that we are including here from our fine friends at FEMA, and hopefully maybe one or two of you might come back and read this at your leisure. I will probably do that when I'm not recording, because it's been a very, very long stream. I think we're getting close to 3.5 hours as it is. So I'm starting a government issued PDF that's 60 pages long at this stage in the game is a little bit suicidal, although I have done much longer streams in the past. Let's save some content for FEMA files, and maybe this will act as a little teaser trailer for that fourth installment of FEMA files, although I have no idea exactly when you will be witnessing that. And we are about to get to the 60th page of that document. There you go. So I'm going to come out of there and back to this page. Let me go forward again and show you. There we are, guys. Let's click on it. I'm showing up on Google. That has almost made my day, or has it? I don't know. It should do, guys. But the other thing that you should realize about the fact that if Nowrd, me, RD, NoOneWatchesArDee is showing up in Google searches regarding the Keystone 6 Masscare exercise that is about to take place in just a few weeks' time, that means there ain't no one else talking about the Keystone 6 Masscare exercise about to take place in a few short weeks' time, which is of course a national level exercise which will be conducting the scenario of a series of high impacts cascading through a region of United States of America. Pretty much what has happened this last week in real time, real events, real high impact events, extreme weather events have impacted a region of the United States of America and have cascaded through several states, leaving a path of destruction in their way. And throughout this stream, we've looked a little bit at Keystone 6, we've looked at some FEMA involvement, we looked at them carrying out hurricane-related exercises just 3 weeks ago alongside the military. We looked at those contracts that they have acquired for the financial year of 2024, all items needed to assist them in mass disaster scenarios. Are we about to witness a major disaster drill gone live? Is Keystone 6, the Masscare exercise, already active? Are these victims as a result of these weather-related disasters over the course of the last week are sure going to be in line for some FEMA assistance? And as I said, guys, is the Masscare exercise Keystone 6 already active? If it isn't, pay attention, guys. I think it has only just begun. Probably this is week one of a series of cascading high impact events, and if or not the Keystone 6 Masscare exercise is cancelled to concentrate on real life events similar to what happened on that September Tuesday morning of 2001 when our fine friends at FEMA had arrived on the Monday the 10th of September 2001 to start setting up for a Masscare emergency exercise bio-terrorist attack scenario due to take place at Pier 92, home of the Port Authority, just across the road from where the two towers once stood. So history, guys, is repeating. Echoes of the past are echoing extremely loudly with all these exercises that are going on as we lead up and get ever so much closer to Keystone 6, the Masscare exercise, national level exercise taking place at the end of May 2024. But let's just click back out of YouTube. Can we do that? Back to Google and show you. Look, guys, I am showing up there in the search results. Actually, let's go over and look at the videos and see. The first video that shows up in Google, guys, is me, Keystone 6 Masscare care, exercise, and I think that is the most appropriate and perfect place to end this extended stream as we've looked deeper into Keystone 6 and some more FEMA involvement as we get closer to that event taking place. But until the next installment, brought to you from Ship Video Productions here at NoOneWatchesArDee, all it remains for me to say is, until then, please take care, may the force be with us all, and more importantly, let's be excellent to each other. Ardee signing out. Till then.
The Atlantic hurricane season runs June 1st through November 30th, and, according to NOAA, peaks mid-August through mid-October. Hurricanes bring strong winds and dangerous storm surge. Even if you're not in the direct path of a storm, you could still be at risk from heavy rain and flooding. Here is some key information to help make sure you're prepared ahead of time. A hurricane watch means storm conditions are possible within the next 48 hours. If you're under a watch, it's a good time to review your evacuation route. If you don't know your route, you can check with your local emergency management agency. You should also make a plan with your family, like deciding how you'll communicate if you get separated. Stay informed by keeping a close eye on the forecast and follow directions from your local officials. A hurricane warning means storm conditions are expected within the next 36 hours. If you're under a warning, get your car ready by keeping the gas tank full and stocking it with emergency supplies and a change of clothes. Bookmark your city or county website or follow them on social media for quick access to important updates and instructions. Follow evacuation orders if they're given. For more great information on preparing for hurricanes, visit ready.gov/hurricanes.
Sit, Ubu, sit. Good dog. Sit, Ubu, sit. Good dog.
Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes!
Hey, Luke. May the force be with you.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then.
When the earth shakes, the ground moves, and things start to fall, you'll ask yourself, how prepared or unprepared are you? Have you removed objects from over the bed and over your head? Anchored your possessions securely to the wall. It won't be a pain, and you're not doing it in vain. Are your emergency kits packed? What about your family, your friends? Do they know what to do, how to get in touch, and where to meet? Do you know how to drop, cover, and hold on, covering your head and neck? What if you're outside? Or in a car? After the shaking stops, look around. Figure out what to do. Stay away from damaged areas. Turn on a radio. Reach out for help. And if you're trapped, do not move about. Stay calm. Only shout as a last resort. Once everything and everyone is safe, get prepared. An aftershock could be on its way. So before the earth shakes, the ground moves, and things start to fall, get prepared. Make a plan. Practice what you know, because an earthquake can happen anytime, anywhere. You never know.